Chapter 421. Entrapment. It was a lot easier to get out of the Dragon Palace, at least the current Xiaotian could control almost everything here. After returning to the original road, the 5-element cable hook stretched out several times in Yang Chen's hand and hooked to the top 5 buckles. A huge suction force couldn't compete with the power of the 5 elements hook. Yang Chen easily returned to the entrance. At this moment, the powerful suction and endless vortex that was in the sea of no return seems to have no effect on Xiaotian. For Yang Chen, a guy who has just had his body refining technique promoted to river turning strength, although there were still some obstacles, it was no longer involuntary. Soon after, Yang Chen stood up for the shuttle to break away from the core area of the sea of no return and began to fly towards the periphery. With his spiritual awareness that has reached the realm of the human immortal first grade, unscrupulously sweeping in this area, even without the magical power crystal of Lanying, no sea beast dared to come a little closer. While enjoying this powerful feeling of transcending the limits of this mundane world, Yang Chen suddenly found that in a certain direction in the sea of no return, there were actually dozens of masters gathered. Zhanxian was a PQing stage master in the Greatest Heaven sect. He was also the link between the Greatest Heaven sect and the Hidden Dragon Cave Yuwenyi. From the beginning of their cultivation, he and Yuwenyi were friends, and even the two had battled several times in private. They were both opponents of chess and had a close relationship. More than a year ago, Zhanxian suddenly received news from the South China Sea that the Hidden Dragon Cave was uprooted by people and almost completely annihilated. What remained were just a few lucky fishes and shrimps that were not in Hidden Dragon Cave at the time, who did not even know Yuwenyi's true identity. This news surprised Zhanxian. Although sects were not very many in the South China Sea, they were added together. There were also dozens of Yuanying stage masters. Especially the Yuanying stage masters of the 7 births, by relying on a set of 7-star sword array, they could almost compete with the masters in the early Daching stage. Such a combat power has been uprooted. The news came from Zhanxian, the secret spy of the Hidden Dragon Cave, who had been kept secretly watching the Hidden Dragon Cave. He could not lie, this was not a betrayal of the Hidden Dragon Cave, but an eradication. There was no need to lie. Among the murderers who removed the Hidden Dragon Cave, Zhanxian heard Yang Chen's name. He originally thought it was a coincidence of the same name, but after adding the 10,000 treasure tower, it was confirmed that it was Yang Chen of the Puryang Palace. How did Yang Chen appear in the South China Sea and also wiped out the masters of the Hidden Dragon Cave? How did this happen? No one knew why Yang Chen made the move. Although the South China Sea was far away, the Greatest Heaven sect did not intend to control it in the palm of their hand in a short time, but it also planned for hundreds of years. Originally thinking that the slow grinding of the meat by using a blunt knife like Yuwenyi could also control the South China Sea alliance invisibly, but unexpectedly, the hard work of hundreds of years was turned into nothing. It's related to Yang Chen again. This guy has a haunting spirit. It seemed to be known all day that he was causing trouble to the Greatest Heaven sect, and 99% of the senior executives hoped that Yang Chen would die. However, now Yang Chen could not die yet. According to news from the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect, 3 Daching stage elders who were injured in their 2 sects already under the 5th grade medicinal pill that Yang Chen refined. The injuries healed as much as possible. Even more than that, after experiencing this torture, the 3 masters had greatly tempered their minds. In contrast, their 3 Daching stage elders' injuries were getting more serious, and there were even signs that they cannot be suppressed. Several elixirs that have been refined by skilled alchemy masters could only limit the injuries of the 3 elders. As for healing, it was simply impossible. In this case, how could the Greatest Heaven sect let Yang Chen die? Yang Chen was now a little guy, although he was a master of alchemy in the 5th grade, but he has only had a disagreement with Li Qingchen and even helped the Greatest Heaven sect very generously in the interpretation of the secret planes key. The reason why the Greatest Heaven sect wanted Yang Chen to die was simply because they couldn't control Yang Chen and his achievements were a little more outstanding, but he wasn't a life and death enemy. From the perspective of the Greatest Heaven sect, they were far from knowing how Yang Chen has hurt them and they don't have that kind of bitter hatred. On one side were 3 Daching stage masters of their own and on the other side, a second-rate small martial art deck master who they couldn't control. The 2 sides were weighed together and they naturally decided to maintain the combat power of the Daching stage masters. Now the Greatest Heaven sect has already suffered huge losses. If these 3 masters were lost again, their strength would be reduced by a whole level. The intention of the sect was to let Zhanxian come to investigate what happened. If possible, it was best to repair their relationship with Yang Chen. Of course, the best result was to control Yang Chen. To this end, Zhanxian was even allowed to bring 20 Yuanying stage masters. They strive to be stronger than the destroyed Hidden Dragon Cave. Zhanxian was also careful not to reveal his strength along the way. He brought a space magic weapon and put everyone else into the magic weapon and quickly rushed to the South China Sea. When he arrived in the South China Sea, he knew immediately what had happened. The people in the hidden dragon cave were greedy for property and they attacked without knowing the real background of the 10,000 treasure tower, annoying Yang Chen. Yang Chen brought 11 Yuning stage masters and a person who they could not see his depth but should be in the Daching stage, and the hidden dragon cave was uprooted. This matter was very big in the South China Sea and Yang Chen has never concealed it. Even at the last moment, Yu Wenyi did not conceal his promotion. Zhanxian didn't waste much effort to know what happened. Upon hearing the appearance of a master whose depth could not be seen, Zhanxian knew that it was Shanyu from the Pure Yang Palace. No matter how powerful, not to mention a newly promoted Daching stage, even a master who has been promoted for 100 years may not be an opponent of the old guy. Yang Chen brought Shanyu, so the hidden dragon cave didn't have a chance at all. The other 10 could basically be the Hall of Eccentrics masters that has joined the Pure Yang Palace in recent years, only Huyun was a stranger. What made Zhanxian happy was that when he left the Greatest Heaven sect, the old tree demon Shanyu had returned to the Pure Yang Palace with the 10 Yuning stage masters. Only Yang Chen and Gongsun and the mysterious Huyun didn't come back. Their whereabouts were unknown to others, but Zhanxian has a compass, so he could easily find the location of Yang Chen. According to the location he was looking for, Yang Chen was still in the South China Sea and he went to a famous fierce land in the South China Sea, called the Sea of No Return. Although he didn't know what Yang Chen did, one thing was certain, Yang Chen was still alive. The most important point was that Yang Chen does not have Shanyu beside him, only Gongsun and Huyun. Huyun was said to be a master in the peak Yuning stage, but that was not important. The important thing was that there were no top masters of the Pure Yang Palace beside Yang Chen, and the sky was high in the South China Sea. Even if they do it, the Pure Yang Palace would not know who did it. There have been 6 Yuning masters killed instantly for blocking Yang Chen, but everyone suspected that it was Shanyu who has always followed Yang Chen, otherwise it was impossible to do this with Yang Chen's ability. Now Shanyu was determined to be in the Pure Yanjiang Palace, which was at least 1 year away from the Sea of No Return. Even if he has wings, he cannot fly here so fast. Zhanxian, however, brought 20 Yuning stage masters. There were 4 peak Yuning stage masters that were comparable to him. It was more than enough to kill the unknown Huyun. As for Gongsun, a middle Jidan stage junior, as long as any of the Yuning stage masters made a move, they could catch her easily. Coincidentally, Gongsun was one of Yang Chen's wives. As a hostage, Yang Chen would be more obedient. Zhanxian this time, he felt like he was in luck, he was able to encounter such a good opportunity. Not to mention how much benefit he could gain from Yang Chen, a 5th grade alchemy master, in the Greatest Heaven sect, he could be exchanged for a coveted reward. Such God-given opportunities, if Zhanxian didn't seize it, wouldn't it be against the heavens? So after getting Yang Chen's whereabouts, Zhanxian immediately started to make arrangements. Of course, Zhanxian was not a reckless person. First of all, he needs to understand the situation. He quickly learned from a rogue cultivator. After he got everything, Zhanxian took the 20 Yuning stage masters, went around in a circle, and went straight to the Sea of No Return. Up to the periphery of the Sea of No Return, Yang Chen's position has not changed, which made Zhanxian very happy. At least he didn't have to worry about Yang Chen leaving. To catch Yang Chen, the most troublesome thing to be afraid of was Yang Chen's flying magic weapon. Once Yang Chen was able to launch it, in all likelihood Zhanxian could not catch up. Fortunately, in the past, the Greatest Heaven sect specifically dealt with this magic weapon of Yang Chen, so Zhanxian knew that it was simple and could be realized here. The boat that was used by the Greatest Heaven sect the last time failed. Now that there was no magic weapon that could compete with the shuttle, it was natural to look in another direction. The simplest course was to make Yang Chen unable to use the shuttle. At this moment, Zhanxian had such a method. A sealing formation, once he entered the formation, no matter who it was, his body's spiritual power would be firmly sealed, unless it was a master of the Daching stage, there would be no way to get rid of it. Obviously, Yang Chen didn't have such a cultivation base yet. This formation was very powerful, but the shortcomings were equally obvious. Once the formation was launched, the enemy's spiritual power was blocked, but the same would happen to the master of the array's spiritual power. But Zhanxian doesn't care about this. As long as he enters the battlefield, plus his 21 Yuning stage masters, couldn't he catch a middle Jidan stage master who also has no spiritual power? The body of the master of the Yuning stage who has been baptized by the thunder tribulation was by no means in the imagination of those in the Jidan stage. The only shortcoming was that this array required a lot of masters to start and the layout time was not short. The enemy would not stumble into the battlefield, once it was seen, he would inevitably return. However, as long as the layout was completed, the masters under the Daching stage cannot escape the constraints under the conditions that the masters couldn't give full play to their spiritual power. But with the compass that holds Yang Chen's whereabouts, things were much simpler. This method could also be used in the past, but at that time, everyone did not think that the 6 masters of the Yuning stage could not catch Yang Chen. Now for Sun Quan, this opportunity was available. When setting up the formation, Sun Quan was even surprised to find that Yang Chen seemed to be in the core of the Sea of No Return. How Yang Chen went in and how he was safe after he entered, these were all things that Sun Quan wanted to know desperately. With this reason, Sun Quan wanted to catch Yang Chen alive more firmly. There were countless precious materials at the edge of the Sea of No Return and countless powerful sea beasts. What was in the core would be really exciting. All of this, as long as he grabbed Yang Chen, he could know it thoroughly. While Sun Quan was constantly exploring the position of Yang Chen was cultivating in the Dragon Yuan and he couldn't care about anything else. After Yang Chen emerged from the Dragon Palace, he immediately noticed the tremor of the spiritual awareness imprint in his body. The spiritual awareness mark was planted by the greatest heaven sect, young sect master Li Lihing, and Yang Chen has confirmed it. Li Lihing has been unconscious for almost every period of time in recent years, exactly the same as the time when Yang Chen threw a part of the spiritual awareness imprint into the bloody river. He did not expect that by accidentally hitting another enemy, he could avenge another enemy. Yang Chen was certainly happy, he kept throwing the mark of consciousness into the river of blood once in a while. With Yang Chen's human immortal first-grade spiritual awareness, he immediately found out what Sun Quan was doing. Even with the formation of Sun Quan, Yang Chen could see clearly and understand its role clearly. The other party actually planned to use this method to limit Yang Chen's escape. For a moment, Yang Chen didn't know whether to laugh or mourn for Sun Quan and his party. It was a very strange decision to seal the spiritual power in an attempt to defeat himself with the physical body of a Yuning stage master who was baptized by the Thunder Tribulation. Not to mention for Yang Chen, with the help of the Dragon Yuan, the 3 Purities secret art set the record of allowing him to reach the 4th layer in the mortal world, and his spiritual awareness reached the human immortal 1st grade. It was difficult to say whether Yang Chen could be trapped in this formation. Yang Chen's cultivation of the body refining technique has reached the point where he could overturn a river, but these people wanted to use physical strength to fight against him. In the face of such a good opportunity, of course, Yang Chen did not hesitate to follow the bridge designed by Sun Quan, plunging into the array that has been arranged for a long time for Yang Chen to throw himself into. In order to judge Yang Chen's line of movement in the formation, 5 of the 20 Yuning stage masters have temporarily lost their combat effectiveness. The remaining 15 were all trying to maintain the operation of the formation. And Sun Quan himself was standing in the middle of the formation, quietly waiting for Yang Chen's arrival. He believed that Yang Chen had found the anomaly, but now that he has entered the formation, everything was already too late. At this moment, Yang Chen was like a beast trapped by the formation, which could be slaughtered by anyone. Regardless of which direction Chen walked as he lost his spiritual power, he would eventually be led to the position of Sun Quan by the formation. Sun Quan, who was at work, has even seen Yang Chen captured by himself, learned the secrets of the Sea of No Return, and learned the secrets of Yang Chen's alchemy. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 422. Yang Chen, Grandmaster Yang, your current alchemy realm is of no benefit in the Pure Yang Palace. Sun Quan still planned to persuade Yang Chen when he was faced with Yang Chen, after all, an alchemist willing to join was far more precious than being forced to join my greatest heaven sect and you can get everything you want. When he saw Yang Chen for the first time, Sun Quan was also shocked. If he didn't know that the spiritual awareness imprint would never be wrong, he might think it was someone else. In his impression, Yang Chen's image was a tall and mighty brave man. How did he suddenly become a person with a normal appearance at this moment? However, this was not the focus of Sun Quan. It was not surprising that many body refining techniques have similar changes. As long as Sun Quan could be sure that the 5th grade alchemist master Yang Chen was in front of him. Presumably, Yang Chen has discovered the abnormality, but Sun Quan doesn't care. What about the discovery? In this formation, unless it was a person who has a much higher realm than Sun Quan's realm, he cannot escape the shackles of formation at all. Yang Chen, a small Jian stage master, could not handle it. Just because of this? Yang Chen looked around. 100 dozen feet away, there were at least a dozen masters. With such a big battle force, did he want them to fight to the death? Yang Chen needs to figure out this problem. After all, hiding in the dark while attacking and facing the greatest heaven sect directly were 2 completely different concepts, and they also needed different methods. Of course, we the greatest heaven sect are very sincere. Sun Quan saw Yang Chen's expression was not unexpectedly terrible. Then his heart moved, perhaps Yang Chen's mind had begun to shake. This was definitely a good phenomenon. As long as Yang Chen was willing to consider, there would be opportunities. What kind of sincerity? At this moment, Yang Chen was in no hurry to start. There was such a master who understood the internal affairs of the greatest heaven sect, so it was not impossible to get information out of him. As long as we can do it. You can ask. Sun Quan's tone was unprecedented. This was not his arrogance, nor was he making decisions on behalf of the masters, but a fifth grade alchemist master, the only fifth grade alchemist master in the mortal world, was worth the price. If I don't agree, will you kill me? Yang Chen pointed to the surrounding formation and asked again calmly. This battle formation can only trap people. It won't kill people. Sun Quan shook his head slightly, seemingly sincerely said, I'm just going to talk to Master Yang and have no other intention. Of course, even if he said so, if Yang Chen doesn't agree, then the formation would become a battle formation to capture Yang Chen. However, Yang Chen now believed that these people did not intend to kill him, they just wanted to win him over or capture him. Not planning to kill me? Yang Chen smiled suddenly. Let me join the greatest heaven sect. Could the past issues be forgotten? The death of Li Qingchen in your sect, don't you plan to pursue it? Li Qingchen was originally responsible for his own fault, we can't blame you. Sun Quan's heart became more and more happy, as long as Yang Chen was willing to ask these things, he wouldn't worry that he would not be tempted. After all, Sun Quan also knew that the first ancestral sect that Yang Chen came to join was the greatest heaven sect, but he was thrown out with no inspection. He had a heart toward the greatest heaven sect, not to mention a Li Qingchen, the master of Li Qingchen, at this moment, in order to win Yang Chen would be sold without hesitation. What about the 6 masters of the Wielding stage? The smile on Yang Chen's face was very strange, looking at Sun Quan with a smile. Last time, the greatest heaven sect used 6 Wielding stage masters to try to intercept and kill Yang Chen, and Yang Chen counter-slaughtered them. Could such a thing be forgiven by the greatest heaven sect? Sun Quan really knew about the 6 Wielding stage masters, but at this moment he didn't hesitate and nodded directly. At that time, everyone had a different position. It was inevitable that there were deaths and injuries. Even other people in the sect could figure it out. You don't have to worry about it. After a pause, Sun Quan seemed to want Yang Chen to be completely assured, adding. Besides, everyone knows that with your own strength, you can't kill 6 Wielding stage brothers. The fault was not with you, although you carry the name of killing on the back, but the sect is too high and the issue will never be pursued again. You can rest assured. In order to attract Yang Chen, even the 6 Wielding masters who have died in Yang Chen's hands were no longer held accountable by him. It must be said that the greatest heaven sect this time put a lot of capital aside. Replaced by a small sect, losing 6 Wielding stage masters was almost a tragic disaster. The great assets of the greatest heaven sect was extraordinary. Did Mr. just make this trip for me, Yang Chen? Yang Chen nodded while listening, but as soon as the topic changed, he immediately switched to the purpose of Sun Quan's trip. Originally, it was just about the cause of the collapse of the Hidden Dragon Cave. I happened to learn that you are here because of fate. Sun Quan was also a hoodlum. In order to make Yang Chen completely assured, even the purpose of this trip was also stated. The Hidden Dragon Cave was destroyed this time, and greed caused the trouble. You don't have to blame yourself, Master Yang, you can destroy it as you like. The Hidden Dragon Cave is part of the greatest heaven sect? Yang Chen asked, staring closely at Sun Quan. The other party even told him about this kind of thing, presumably he was already prepared for the worst, either to solicit or to capture. There was really no way to put it, such secrets could never be leaked to outsiders. Exactly, this time I came down to the South China Sea in order to rebuild a rogue cultivators union. Since Sun Quan had already made up his mind, he was not afraid to tell Yang Chen, the greatest heaven sect is bound to control the South China Sea. I think Master Yang can see the greatest heaven sect strength, not only in the South China Sea, but also in several other places. I have the power of my greatest heaven sect. Looking at Yang Chen's slightly surprised eyes, Sun Quan said more and became excited. Others thought that the greatest heaven sect was damaged when the mountain gate was destroyed and lost a lot, but only some of the outer sect juniors were lost. As long as it takes time and not 100 years, my greatest heaven sect would certainly be stronger than now by a few times. The mortal world is so big, but it's in my hub of the greatest heaven sect. Master Yang, I have told you all the secrets, you join my greatest heaven sect, and the things in this world could be demanded by you. Sun Quan felt that there was enough said. If Yang Chen was smart enough, he should have made a decision by now. Right now there should be no more nonsense. He directly asked Yang Chen to respond. I don't know what Master Yang intends to do. Mister, you are here to rebuild a rogue cultivators alliance to replace the Hidden Dragon Cave, is it so? Yang Chen did not directly reply, but asked a seemingly unrelated word. Exactly. Sun Quan did not hide it. If Yang Chen didn't want to die now, he could only accept Sun Quan's mercy. That's good. Yang Chen's face suddenly smiled. For at least a few decades, the greatest heaven sect probably won't look for you and these people. While Sun Quan was still wondering what Yang Chen meant by this, Yang Chen's figure had already begun to move. His goal was not directly facing Sun Quan, but the 15 masters who were close to him within 20 feet. At a pace that stunned the people, Yang Chen faced the one farthest from him. Without a word, he just punched out. In the formation, these masters knew what would happen, so they had already called out their flying swords and held it in their hands. As soon as the formation was activated, the spiritual power was sealed and the Qianqin bag could not be used, let alone remove their life source flying swords, which could not be taken out from their body. As for using the flying swords to attack people, it was even more unavailable. There was no other way besides holding it in their hands. Seeing that Yang Chen blasted a punch towards him, the other party was a Yuning stage master with rich combat experience, so he was not afraid of it. Fortunately, he still didn't want to hurt Yang Chen, so he only used the spine of the sword. He wanted to stop Yang Chen's punch easily. No one, including Sun Quan, felt that something unexpected would happen. Originally, the formation was meant to deal with 3 people, but now there was only Yang Chen. Needless to say that it was 21 against 1, even if it was 1 against 1, they could handle the situation. But the loud noise, the Yuning stage master holding the sword, felt shock in his hand and he could no longer hold the sword handle. The flying sword flew out his hand, he did not know where it fell. However, Yang Chen's fist momentum didn't stop at all and he still banged with one punch in the opponent's chest. The Yuning stage master couldn't avoid it at all. When he was punched, he didn't say anything, he passed out and became unconscious. Yang Chen didn't stay still in the slightest, but turned around and flung towards the other person. This time, no one would dare to underestimate the enemy, all of them were protecting themselves from the enemy. Several close ones even gathered together to form a team or two, not intending to fight Yang Chen separately. Who would have thought that Yang Chen, who had his spiritual power sealed, would be so fierce? There was no need to ask, it must be related to his body refining technique. A certain type of refining technique has reached a certain level, and this situation has occurred. However, it was so unfortunate that he broke through it this time. But no matter what, if they were still unable to win against Yang Chen in a 15 against 1, all the Yuning stage masters in the field should be killed. Sun Quan's face was dark and he waved at several of the surrounding brothers and sisters for them to attack. This Yang Chen, who was ignorant of the current situation, still wanted to be lucky under such circumstances. The furious greatest heaven sect experts almost rushed forward instantly. The little Zhanxian stage junior dared to be so arrogant. Would he dare to be so arrogant by relying on a body refining technique? Suddenly, at least 8 people rushed to Yang Chen's side and at least 5 swords were chopped on Yang Chen's body. Fortunately, these people did not forget to keep Yang Chen alive, all the limbs were targeted, but there was nothing fatal. However, the next scene that appeared in front of them was simply unimaginable. 5 flying swords struck on Yang Chen's body, but they just cut through Yang Chen's clothes. When the blade touched his body, they felt a shock. The 5 flying swords that had struck suddenly bounced off and not even a white mark was left on the part cut by the blade. What was this? Without spirit power, magic weapons could never be used, but what kind of cultivation method could counteract the flying swords? This was not an ordinary sword, but everyone's life source flying sword. It was definitely not done by something a secular world's blacksmith could create, such as a golden bell and iron cloth shirt. In a short period of time, Yang Chen took a few sword strikes without fail, but his fists burst out relentlessly. With several punches, all of them fell on the opponent's chest, using just the right amount of strength. The 7 Yuning stage masters couldn't even withstand a punch, and they all fell unconscious. Within this array that seals spiritual power, Yang Chen's body refining technique was almost like a fish in water. When this immortal skill reached the 5th level, it could compete with those Great Principle Golden Immortals. Although Yang Chen was now only in the 3rd level, it was definitely more than enough to handle a few masters in the Yuning stage. What's more, these enemies also sealed their own spiritual power. Yang Chen has seen fools, but he has never seen such fools. He didn't need to ask them to know that this was because they were afraid that his shuttle would be too fast for them to catch up to, but this method of self-harming was still too strange that Yang Chen could not help but want to smile. Actively sending 21 masters in the Yuning stage to capture him, this was really a masterpiece of the greatest heaven sect. This Sun Quan did not think that he was looking for trouble for himself, but he happened to think that he was bullying him. At this moment, everyone has gathered. Within the scope of this formation, no one was Yang Chen's opponent. It's a far cry from strength. Within a moment, the remaining Yuning stage masters, except Sun Quan, were all brought down by Yang Chen with his fists, and none escaped. You, Zhanxian originally wanted to help the brothers and sisters fight against him, but he didn't expect things to happen so fast. When he rushed to Yang Chen, there was no standing brother around him. At this moment, Zhanxian's eyes seemed to spit out flames. This guy, Yang Chen, even talked so much with him. Now he still despicably knocked down all his brothers. This was simply drawing himself away to give him a slap. How could Zhanxian endure it? With the flying sword in his hand, he suddenly cut towards Yang Chen's throat. At this moment, how could Zhanxian still plan to capture Yang Chen? If Yang Chen was not killed, once the matter of the hidden dragon cave was spread, the greatest heaven sect would definitely be the target of public criticism. In any case, Zhanxian would like to kill Yang Chen on the spot. Prior to the attack, Zhanxian had crushed the jade symbols that controlled the magic array. As long as it was within 10 breaths, this magic seal array would fail. Those brothers and sisters were knocked down by Yang Chen before they even recovered their spiritual power. However, this also gave Zhanxian a lot of time, with his peak-uniting stage strength, to deal with a middle Jidan stage. Yang Chen was absolutely nothing. Suddenly, Zhanxian felt light, and the feeling of his spiritual power being sealed disappeared without a trace. Zhanxian's face showed a happy smile. The flying sword in his hand was like a dragon entering the sea. He soared and chopped it between Yang Chen's neck. He hadn't waited for Zhanxian to see the result, and suddenly his ankle was tightened, as if being lifted by something. Then, a few beeps, Zhanxian's figure flipped up and down and was repeatedly beaten on the platform of the original formation. His whole body was beaten and his whole body was aching. He didn't know how many bones were broken. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 423. Gongsun Ling's Benefits. In the eyes of outsiders, at this moment, Zhanxian, who was at the peak-uniting stage, was caught by Yang Chen by his ankle and then struck down from the air, beating him constantly around the ground. He had peak-uniting stage strength, but Zhanxian couldn't escape Yang Chen's big hand holding his ankle. The strength of Yang Chen almost shattered his ankle. With severe pain and suddenly being smashed involuntarily, how could he care of others? An aloof peak-uniting stage master tasted such a depressing taste. Just a few back and forth smashing made Zhanxian's physical protection no longer work. His bones were almost broken in half. His whole body's spiritual power was also scattered by Yang Chen's high-speed smashing method. For a moment, Zhanxian, who was supposed to have a winning ticket, changed from a spirited peak-uniting stage ancestor, and he became a dying seriously injured cultivator. Lying helplessly on the ground, Zhanxian could not even move one finger at will. In his life, there have been countless battles, but he had never been so miserable before, which made him feel no better than being dead. However, Yang Chen left his life for him, not only his life, but even the lives of the other 20 uniting stage masters. Yang Chen did not kill them, all of them were still alive. This wasn't Yang Chen's sudden tenderness, but after he knew Zhanxian's purpose of coming to the South China Sea, he deliberately showed mercy. If he killed Zhanxian now, the greatest heaven sect would certainly know, and not only would they replan for the South China Sea, but would also firmly decide to kill Yang Chen. However, keeping them alive was different. They originally came here to establish a rogue cultivators alliance, and it was estimated that they could not return to the greatest heaven sect for decades or hundreds of years. Then during this period, the greatest heaven sect in the South China Sea was equivalent to having no power at all. As long as the South China Sea alliance develops faster, the greatest heaven sect would not have the opportunity to intervene in the future. Second, without killing these people, the greatest heaven sect would not launch a last resort against himself and the Puryang Palace in the short term. Although the Puryang Palace has developed a lot, it still cannot compete with the greatest heaven sect. It also takes Yang Chen to find ways to weaken the power of the greatest heaven sect for a long time. In addition, these 21 uniting stage masters were definitely the best tonic for Gongsun Ling's geographical map. The addition of more than 20 masters would definitely shorten the time for Gongsun Ling to sacrificially refine the mountain river geographical map. On one hand, weakening the enemy's strength and on the other hand, strengthening his own strength was exactly what Yang Chen liked to do. In addition, Gongsun Ling was his wife and the husband helping his wife was normal. After putting away the 21 uniting stage masters, Yang Chen did not let go of the materials of the array. He kept it into his Qianqin bag and then began to search for the whereabouts of Huyan and Gongsun Ling. In the Sea of No Return area, Yang Chen drove the shuttle for half a month and found Huyan and Gongsun Ling outside. As far as the periphery was concerned, the two have actually gone inside a lot. When Yang Chen entered the Sea of No Return, Huyan and Gongsun Ling were looking for those powerful sea beasts. When meeting Huyan, the sea beasts in this area were pitiful and had been beaten helplessly. This guy who has been sullen for tens of thousands of years in the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's cave was simply a fighting beast. When encountering the sea beast, regardless of whether it attacked them, he rushed up and beat it up. Ordinary sea beasts couldn't be seen by Hu Yun. He only selected those guys with strong combat effectiveness. However, even those beasts who had great inborn strength couldn't handle Hu Yun, who has cultivated the transformation secret art and Yang Chen's body refining technique. He was also a water attribute cultivator. Apart from that, there was his daching stage cultivation base to add to his natural divine power and yellow turban body refining technique, let alone the sea beasts of the mortal world. Even if they were the ascended Lanying, it was estimated that they had a fight. Countless powerful sea beasts became the targets of Hu Yun's practice one by one. When they were almost beaten to death by Hu Yun, they were thrown into the mountain river geographical map of Gongsun and became slaves of the mountain river geographical map, helping Gongsun to refine it. After this lap, all the sea beasts that could be called powerful outside were all made slaves. Except for some guys who were strong and uncontrollable were killed by Hu Yun, all the others were collected by Gongsun. There were no sea animals above the Yuning stage in the entire periphery of the Sea of No Return. Hu Yun was certainly not satisfied, so under the careful support of Hu Yun, the two began to move towards the interior of the Sea of No Return for a short period. The sea beasts here were more powerful, and even daching stage masters appeared. Here, Hu Yun was able to satisfy his addiction. Fighting the sea beasts in the daching stage in the sea, even if they were as powerful as Hu Yun, they can't guarantee that they could be defeated every time. Often fighting very hard but also allowed Hu Yun to really go all out, from the body to the heart. He felt comfortable. During the fight between daching stage, Gongsun became redundant. However, this does not mean that Gongsun was not safe. After collecting a large number of masters of the sea tribe, the geographical map has inspired new uses. It may not be possible to attack the enemy with it, but if it was only used to protect Gongsun, it was more than enough. But less worries, Hu Yun was even more wanton, provoking strong enemies everywhere. For more than a year, he has been fighting almost every day. His fighting spirit was unprecedented. And Hu Yun's cultivation was a state of mind. In the constant battles of this year, he has been further improved and gradually reached the edge of the later stage, only one step to the peak daching stage. Yang Chen's shuttle appeared behind Gongsun, who noticed Yang Chen's arrival almost instantly. By the time Yang Chen closed the shuttle, Gongsun had already caught Yang Chen's arms. It seemed that the two already had a wordless tacit understanding. They didn't need to say anything at all, and they would know each other's mood. Hu Yun was still fighting. His opponent was a huge tuna. In the sea water, its speed was like electricity. Even the turbulent suction force in the Sea of No Return seems to have no effect on it. The long pointed beak was like a sharp spear, which was comparable to Hu Yun. It was not known how long they fought. Hu Yun even has sweat beads on his face, his opponent's terrifying strength could be seen. However, Hu Yun was not easy to match. The golden stick was powerful in his hands, the other party was also in the daching stage, but he only dared to avoid by speed and dare not fight with Hu Yun face to face. Of course, Yang Chen's appearance could not be hidden from Hu Yun. During the fighting, Hu Yun had already seen Yang Chen, and he had also seen the changes in Yang Chen's body. However, Hu Yun suddenly found out that he had only seen Yang Chen with his eyes, his spiritual awareness couldn't detect Yang Chen's whereabouts at all. This was a shocking thing. Hu Yun himself was a strong man in the daching stage, and after this period of fighting, his level of ascension has reached the peak of the late daching stage. Compared with Luo Yuan, he was not inferior. Under these circumstances, Yang Chen was able to escape the investigation of his spiritual awareness, which was almost impossible. Unless he was relying on a powerful magic weapon to conceal himself from his spiritual awareness, Yang Chen had used one before, but apparently Yang Chen was not using it now. Under normal circumstances, Hu Yun's spiritual awareness couldn't be shielded. It seems that there was only one possibility left, that was, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was far stronger than Hu Yun's, at least it had a higher level than Hu Yun's. The foundation stage cannot be used to detect the Jitan stage, the Jitan stage cannot be used to detect the Yuanying stage, and the Yuanying stage cannot be used to detect the Daching stage. These were all due to differences in realms. However, Hu Yun was already a Daching stage master, the realm that even he cannot detect with his spiritual awareness. What was that realm? Hu Yun could not help but be shocked, this incident was already too incredible. Hu Yun immediately broke out of the fight with a trick. No matter how it was the refining technique or the realm of his spiritual awareness, Yang Chen was more interesting to Hu Yun than the Daching stage beast. The sea beast also knew that Hu Yun was very powerful. When it saw that Hu Yun took the initiative to leave the fighting circle, it did not pursue, but it quietly dived into the sea and disappeared. Is this the river turning strength? Hu Yun came to Yang Chen, looked up and down Yang Chen's body, his face was incredible. Hu Yun himself was also taught the body refining technique by Yang Chen. Of course, he understood that the changes in Yang Chen's body could only be achieved after reaching the third layer, the river turning strength. However, the more he knew about the body refining technique, the more he understood the difficulty of refining it. According to Hu Yun's own estimation, if he wanted to cultivate to the third level, it would only be possible at least after hundreds of years of his ascension to the spiritual realm. Yang Chen now was more than 100 years old. Even if he had not faced the thunder tribulation, his body was easily able to cultivate the body refining technique successfully. However, such a speed of cultivation was really a bit terrifying. Even Hu Yun, the real monstrously talented, was a little moved. "Fight me?" Looking at Yang Chen's body, Hu Yun almost glowed from both eyes and couldn't help shooting a burst of sparks in his eyes. Seeing Yang Chen's river-turning strength, it even made Hu Yun forget that he was at Dacheng stage and Yang Chen was just in the Jidan stage, he just wanted to have a good time. You are not allowed to use spiritual power. Gongsun Ling, however, has absolute confidence in her husband before Yang Chen had beaten Hu Yun once on the shuttle, and now that Yang Chen's body shape changed, naturally she also knows that her husband's cultivation was successful. How could she let her husband lose his prestige? Limiting spiritual power and using only physical power would naturally make Hu Yun more convinced. Gongsun Ling knew the origin of Hu Yun and also knew from the heart that Hu Yun was not willing to join the Puryang Palace. But now Yang Chen has the opportunity to subdue Hu Yun, suppress his strength, and he also gave him his cultivation method. This mighty Hu Yun might be a big help for Yang Chen. With Yang Chen's guidance, Gongsun Ling's mind was also changed with dexterity, and she immediately thought of these. Yang Chen also knew everything in his heart, smiled at Gongsun Ling, then looked at Hu Yun with a smile. That's natural. Although Hu Yun was belligerent, he hadn't reached the point where he could overpower people, especially when facing Yang Chen. After he agreed, he immediately put on a posture to fight. Here? Yang Chen shook his head directly. Uncle Ancestor, let's leave this sea to find an island. After all, there was no place to set foot in the sea of no return, it was impossible to fight without spiritual power. Hu Yun also realized this and immediately followed the suggestion. The golden stick was carried across his shoulders and he was about to leave. How could Yang Chen let Hu Yun get exhausted? He immediately summoned out the shuttle, packed the three of them, and quickly left this area. The fierce sea of no return once again restored its apparent calm, except for the lack of a lot of fierce sea beasts on the periphery, it looked like no other changes were made. Maybe in a few years, there will be similarly fierce sea beasts from other places, maybe there would be some powerful monsters from other parts of the sea of no return to occupy the territory. Anyway, there were no large beasts around here anymore. In the shuttle, Yang Chen didn't say anything. First he threw out Sun Chun and the other 21 Yuning stage masters and briefly introduced them, so Gongsun Ling received these Dao Sex masters in the Mountain River geographical map. In these days, Gongsun Ling collected no less than 100 Yuning stage sea beasts and even 2 Dacheng stage sea beasts were captured by Hu Yun. Coupled with these Dao Sex Yuning stage masters, the Mountain River geographical map that originally needed to be tempered for hundreds of years could be tempered in 10 years at most. By that time, the combat effectiveness of Gongsun Ling would rise sharply, and even Zhanxian, who has cultivated for more than 100 years, would not necessarily be Gongsun Ling's opponent. In the past few days, Hu Yun has been running around the sea with Gongsun Ling, without a foothold, relying on their cultivation base to circle around the sea of no return. Both of them have a feeling of being exhausted. Of course, Yang Chen understood that the two were exhausted, especially Hu Yun, who not only had to fight, but also take care of Gongsun Ling, in case Gongsun Ling was injured. It was hard work. Yang Chen had to express his concern. At the moment, Yang Chen didn't say a word. He made a cup of jade dragon wine with 2 cups of 4 Cs, mysterious coral liquid for Hu Yun and Gongsun Ling. They have been fighting at sea for more than a year and they were exhausted physically and mentally. Gongsun Ling took in the 4 C's mysterious coral liquid and of course, understood the painstaking efforts of her husband. Hu Yun believed that what Yang Chen gave him was ordinary. He drank it in one go and then fell directly to the ground, as if he couldn't wake up in general. He simply took Hu Yun to the side and he fell asleep, but Yang Chen carefully held Gongsun Ling sitting next to him, holding Gongsun Ling in one hand, holding out the gourd in one hand, pouring himself a glass of jade dragon wine slowly to drink. Holding Gongsun Ling like this, he let her sleep peacefully in his arms. The shuttle was on the bottom of the sea and hurried through, but it was directly on the way back to the Dao Sect domain. The arrangement of the greatest heaven sect in the South China Sea was completely destroyed and the newly arrived Sun Chun and others were also captured. For at least several decades, there would be no black hands from the greatest heaven sect in the South China Sea. Now the most important thing for Yang Chen was to hurry back to the Dao Sect's domain and cultivate the highest mystery Yin Yang Heart Sutra, together with Sun Qingxu and Zhanxian, to stabilize the spiritual awareness that suddenly increased because of the Dragon Yuan. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 424. river turning strength. Zhanxian has taken the 4C's mysterious coral liquid many times. After waking up, the physical changes were not so obvious for her. But Huyun was different. For the first time, he took the 4C's mysterious coral liquid, which made him feel embarrassed. Although Huyun was already a master of the Daching stage, at least he has experienced the baptism of thunder and yin fire tribulation, but the impurities in his body were still astounding. After a deep sleep, Huyun woke up and knew what was happening to him. On one hand, Huyun was very grateful to Yang Chen, but on the other hand, he was slightly annoyed. Huyun's embarrassment fell in the eyes of Zhanxian, which seems to be the reason that made Huyun very unhappy. Huyun has a special kind of care for Zhanxian. Taking care of Zhanxian for such a long time, Huyun was very reluctant to let Zhanxian see his awkward look. However, the benefits were also huge. Experiencing the thunder and yin fire tribulation in the Immortal's cave did not make his body completely free of impurities. In this regard, the monster race has an inherent disadvantage over humans. This large cup of 4C's mysterious coral liquid directly purified Huyun's body a lot, which has inestimable benefits for future cultivation. Apart from that, it was estimated that he could save at least decades of hard work on the body refining technique. Hurry up, find a place to compete. Huyun was very curious about Yang Chen's current state and couldn't wait to compete with Yang Chen, who has achieved the river turning strength. In fact, Yang Chen also wanted to know the difference in strength between Huyun and himself. Huyun was so anxious that Yang Chen was not polite. He found an island along the way, took off the shuttle, and the three flew over the island and started preparing for battle. The island was not large, it was a few square feet, and the surface of the sea was not high, but it was more than enough for Yang Chen and Huyun to stand on. Not far away, Zhanxian flew in the air, being the only audience on the scene. The two stood face to face. Although he didn't use his spiritual power, Huyun still held his huge stick. On the side of Yang Chen, he doesn't have any heavy weapons that he could use, so he was simply empty-handed. Huyun was not embarrassed at all because Yang Chen was bare-handed. Seeing that Yang Chen was ready, he yelled, the stick in his hand was raised high and smashed towards Yang Chen severely. That posture was clearly like Yang Chen was an enemy who he couldn't share the world with and has no concept of restaining anything at all. Zhanxian, who was watching next to him, almost screamed, but fortunately, she still believed in her husband's ability, so she held back. The sound of the wind from the stick was as shivering as the pursuit of the soul. Standing in place, Yang Chen didn't have the slightest sense of fear. He just watched the shadow of the stick and then probed out with one hand and grabbed the high-speed stick in his hand. Huyun was not surprised at all, and even some of them were deliberate. The two have to compete for strength, naturally they must have a medium, and this stick was the medium between the two. However, Yang Chen picked it up so easily, carrying a huge and powerful stick. Yang Chen grasped it in his hands, and his body didn't shake much, which made Huyun a little surprised and even looked forward to it. No one knows the power of that stick better than Huyun himself, and if Yang Chen was replaced by a normal cultivator, even if he uses spiritual power, he may not be able to take it so easily. For more than a year, Huyun has battled with many powerful sea beasts, and none had been able to take his stick with their physical strength. Even so, Yang Chen still felt a pain in his palms. Huyun's stick was definitely not just a force of at least 300,000 jin. But for Yang Chen at this moment, it was not too difficult. After all, if it was beyond 2 realms. It was by no means simply a description of strength. Grabbing Huyun's stick, Yang Chen immediately pulled. Huyun's figure standing in place at this moment had been involuntarily driven by Yang Chen. Yang Chen's arm was raised in the same way. Huyun was slammed together with the stick. He made 2 large circles in the air and then hit the ground fiercely. Boom, Huyun's body had no resistance at all. He was driven by the big stick, followed by 2 turns in the air and slammed into the ground of the island. The grey-faced Huyun jumped out of the human-shaped pit and left the stick alone, jumping directly into the air. Yang Chen did not go all out, Huyun knew this very well. Yang Chen could easily grab the stick and then pull Huyun with force, but Huyun couldn't. But it's not just a matter of skill, absolute strength was also the decisive factor. However, just by this, it was completely impossible to see at what level Yang Chen's current strength has reached. Huyun anxiously scratched his ears and scratched his cheeks. Apparently Yang Chen was right in front of him, but he couldn't explore it. This was simply a torture. Yang Chen also wanted to know what level of strength he had. Although the refining technique had reached the level of river turning strength, that was just the feeling during cultivation. Yang Chen was not clear about his true strength. The dragon yuan was precious at the time, and Yang Chen had no time to verify his strength. Now was also the opportunity for Yang Chen to understand himself. Waving Huyun's stick, he started smashing around. The target was no longer directed at Huyun, but this small island of a few square meters. Boom boom, a huge sound kept ringing, and just after several consecutive sticks fell, the island had begun to shake violently and then began to crack from the center. The sudden change surprised Yang Chen. He jumped up in the air and looked down at this ordinary island. A sudden movement in his heart, followed by a flash of body shape, he plunged directly into the sea. Hu Yun and Gongsun didn't know what Yang Chen was going to do, and they couldn't find Yang Chen's trace in the search of their spiritual awareness. They all waited quietly in the air. After a few breaths, there was a sudden tumbling under the sea, and then Hu Yun's golden glittering stick suddenly flew out of the water like an arrow and shot directly at Hu Yun. Seeing this, Hu Yun subconsciously grabbed a stick figure, but his body was still slightly carried by the power carried by the stick. The rolling under the sea became more and more fierce. Hu Yun and Gongsun were extremely surprised that even the island below them began to shake violently, as if an earthquake had occurred under the sea. Suddenly, Hu Yun thought of a possibility, his eyes widened instantly, and he looked incredibly below, looking forward to the moment when the answer was revealed. Yang Chen did not let the two wait too long and soon appeared in front of the two. However, he appeared with more than half of the island. The island in the sea suddenly stopped shaking and then rose sharply. The rate of its ascent was very fast, almost in 1 or 2 breaths, and it became level with the two in the air. An island suddenly rose from the sea level. Although the island was not very large, it was also very spectacular. In particular, the water carried on the island kept falling into the sea, and the island still had some unsteady shaking. The sound and the picture as a whole gave an unusually shocking feeling, as if witnessing the world with their own eyes. The rise of the island was still continuing, and the part of the sea level was already 100 feet high. Later Hu Yun and Gongsun saw Yang Chen's figure. Yang Chen himself was just below the island that had been flying up to 100 feet high. The island had no roots, but was lifted up by Yang Chen to the point where it was so high. In simple terms, Yang Chen jumped up in the air holding a huge stone that was hundreds of feet high and several feet square. Because he has not used spiritual power, but pure physical power, Yang Chen was still in the process of jumping, but after a while, he began to fall. Gongsun open mouth has never been closed. This giant rock was more than 300,000 jin, but it was lifted directly by Yang Chen into the air. How strong was Yang Chen now? Hu Yun didn't want to be amazed, but looked dignified. Yang Chen was in the air, but did not stop moving and threw the huge rock like a hill directly at Hu Yun. The current situation made Hu Yun extremely excited. He had never encountered such a powerful opponent. He stood in the air and put on a serious posture. He planned to take over this huge rock thrown by Yang Chen. As soon as his hands touched the giant rock, Hu Yun knew that it was not good. Just by this weight, Hu Yun couldn't take it by relying only on the strength of his flesh alone. But Hu Yun didn't want to give up. He still wanted to know how much strength he had. Standing under the giant rock, his teeth were braced for the impact. Inevitably, Hu Yun used spiritual power, of course, just to allow him to levitate in the air and support the weight of this huge rock. However, relying on the strength of the flesh alone, Hu Yun couldn't support this huge rock anyway. Although his feet stood very stable because of the spiritual power, his body's already pressed bones started to ring. Hu Yun's huge and sturdy body seemed to have reached its limit. The swollen muscles almost completely cracked the outer robe, and the thick blood vessels under the skin became sharp under the strong pressure, as if Hu Yun was surrounded by little snakes. The sound of heavy breathing seemed to be pulling huge bellows, and the whistling wind sounded worrying. The loud heartbeat sounded like a big drum banging, and Gongsun, who was not far away, could even hear the sound of Hu Yun's blood flowing in his blood vessels. In less than 10 breaths, Hu Yun couldn't hold on anymore, and his body seemed to be directly bent by the giant rock. Hu Yun just withdrew his spiritual power, and his whole person was directly pressed from the air to the seafloor by the giant rock. The moment the giant rock smashed into the sea, it smashed a huge water splash, and soon the giant rock disappeared in the seawater. The island that they could still see just now disappears without a trace, as if there has never been an island here. Yang Chen's figure quickly appeared in front of Gongsun. The shuttle was called out, and he brought Gongsun in. The shuttle turned into a sailing boat and drifted quietly on the sea. The two just sat on the boat, waiting quietly for Hu Yun. Hu Yun finally got out of the seawater. Depending on the weight alone, even if the giant rock was 10 times heavier, it would not hurt Hu Yun, who was in the dashing stage. However, when Hu Yun came out, he was a little embarrassed. Hu Yun liked a challenge. He would rather be pushed down by a giant rock than run away from below it. He would be hit by the giant rock to the bottom of the sea, no matter how unpleasant it was. Mountain-picking strength, it really deserves its name. Hu Yun knew that Yang Chen had not exerted all his powers far away, but he had already shown the realm of mountain-picking strength. The island that was just on the land, wasn't it just one? After sighing, Hu Yun also looked forward to it even more. The river turning strength, I don't know how powerful it will be. In fact, even Yang Chen didn't know how much power the river turning strength could have. But just by relying on the flesh, he pulled up an island and threw it into the air, already shocking himself. To be honest, even an ordinary Jitan stage master may not be able to do this, but Yang Chen has already surpassed it by relying on physical strength alone. Hu Yun was completely convinced by Yang Chen and directly said, "I will do what you want me to do in the future, I will follow you, happy." No wonder Shi Kui and Xie liked to follow Yang Chen, and now Hu Yun finally realized that refreshing feeling. On the way back, the three were not lonely at all. In addition to drinking tea and enjoying Gongsun Ling's delicacies, it was also about exchanging ideas. Naturally, Yang Chen needn't say more. Although Hu Yun has been bored in the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's cave, after all, it was in the Daching stage, and some aspects of his understanding were even more thorough than Yang Chen's. The biggest beneficiary was Gongsun Ling. The two men took turns to instruct, so Gongsun Ling avoided almost all the problems that may be encountered during the Jitan stage. There was her beloved with her, there was a transcendent magic weapon on her, plus the help of hundreds of Yuning masters in the Mountain River geographical map to help refine it. There was no mental suffering on Gongsun Ling. In the case of Yang Chen's absence, Gongsun Ling would become the most powerful Jitan stage cultivator in the Puryang Palace in just 10 years. Of course, there was another premise, that was, Gao Yu's dragon horn flying sword was not refined. Once the refining of Gao Yu's dragon horn flying sword was completed, it would also be a magic weapon of the dragon clan. Gao Yu was a water and fire spirit power double cultivator, who would be the most powerful. However, who would care about this unwarranted reputation? Moreover, even if they wanted to rank, they must add their own husband. Although he didn't know how Yang Chen's fighting strength now was, how could Hu Yun bow his head to a Jitan stage cultivator? It was almost 4 years before and after this trip to the South China Sea, and they didn't know what had changed in the Puryang Palace. The only thing they knew was that no matter whether it was Yang Chen or the people who came out with Yang Chen this time, they have achieved great results. For the Puryang Palace, no matter what, it was also a good thing. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 425. The Greatest Heaven Sect Again. When Hu Yun was here, of course Yang Chen and Gongsun Ling could not cultivate the highest mystery Yin Yang Heart Sutra on the shuttle. And because Yang Chen's spiritual awareness has skyrocketed, he didn't dare to cultivate the three purities secret art on the road, for fear that he would soon face the problem of his spiritual awareness splitting. Hu Yun had questioned Yang Chen about his spiritual awareness, and Yang Chen did not fully tell the truth. He just said that he had found a magic weapon to hide his spiritual awareness in the sea of no return. After he forcibly suppressed his spiritual awareness manifestation to the Jitan stage, Hu Yun was able to detect the presence of Yang Chen, again with his spiritual awareness. Of course, Yang Chen's explanation for this was that the magic weapons could be controlled at will. Hu Yun didn't worry about him and believed it. After all, it was really incredible that Hu Yun should believe that a junior in the Jitan stage could have a spiritual awareness that couldn't be discovered by masters in the late Daching stage. Only Gongsun Ling knew that perhaps Yang Chen had truly broken through the Daching stage with his spiritual awareness. A long time ago, when she and Yang Chen were having spiritual awareness double cultivation with each other, Gongsun Ling knew exactly how powerful Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was. Gongsun Ling was also looking forward to it, she wanted to know what kind of realm the spiritual awareness would reach which was above the Daching stage. Beyond the Daching stage, it was a world that Gongsun Ling had only heard of but had never seen before, and she might soon experience it from Yang Chen. The Central Plains road seemed to be normal, and nothing major happened. In the case of the South China Sea, apart from having the Greatest Heaven Sect dispatch a group of experts led by Sun Chun, there was no further disturbance. The other sects were not sure what happened there. Back to the Puryang Palace, of course, Yang Chen first met his master and reported to the master of the palace. When they heard that Yang Chen was back, the elders who were in the sect immediately gathered in the hall of the Immortal's cave. This time, Yang Chen brought 10 masters of the Yuning stage with him. Hu Yun and Gi Shanyu were even taken out, and it really made the sect's high-level members secretly sweat. The master of the palace even regretted that Yang Chen was not blocked at the time. Fortunately, the results of the trip made the high-level members of the sect stunned, as it went in the most beneficial direction for the Puryang Palace. When the 10 Yuning stage masters came back with Gi Shanyu, the kind of satisfaction on their faces after releasing their killing intent, plus some unknown perception, could not be hidden from the top members of the sect. After these guys returned, they continued to retreat, leaving only Gi Shanyu alone. It was said that they were in retreat when they rushed back on the ship. This situation shocked and delighted everyone, not knowing what happened. Fortunately, the old tree demon Gi Shanyu did not need to retreat. He was also the guy who participated in the killing throughout the process and was able to explain to everyone. After listening to everything that Qi Shanyu said, they heard that these 10 guys, under the control of the old tree demon, had faced some yin fire tribulation in advance. Almost all of the senior executives, including the master of the palace, almost jumped up. This kind of once-in-a-lifetime event that could interfere with the other party at any time and let their own masters feel the good experience of the yin fire tribulation in advance. How could such a group of guys who only went out to kill and set fire encounter it? How important this experience was, which of the elders present was unclear about it. Who doesn't know the benefits? Why were they all doing good things? It seems that following Yang Chen's departure, he really answered the statement of killing and setting fire to the golden belt. For a moment, all the elders were a little jealous. Why did these guys have such good luck? The benefits of Yang Chen's trip were not only that, not to mention the benefits of pondering the hidden dragon cave. The agreement for exchanging specialty products with the South China Sea Alliance alone filled the 10,000 treasure tower with profits. They believed that this item could be worth the hard work of the others. After all, no matter how strong the others were, it was just a small-scale team, which was still incomparable with a large alliance of tens of thousands of people, such as the South China Sea Alliance. This time, the 10,000 treasure tower would definitely be able to improve one step. This was not counting the cohesion brought by Yang Chen's direct revenge for the several treasurers of the 10,000 treasure tower. The cultivators who originally joined the treasure tower, most of them were hopeless disciples in the Pyongyang palace. Although the sect took care of them, they didn't pay much attention to them. This large-scale revenge of Yang Chen made these disciples of the 10,000 treasure tower feel the protection of their master. Only by the intention of the master, everyone would strive to make the 10,000 treasure tower bigger and stronger. Not to mention that the 10,000 treasure tower has always been very generous. The bigger the business, the greater their income. There were already dozens of disciples who were consciously hopeless. After joining the 10,000 treasure tower for decades, they have earned a lot of net worth and obtained some suitable treasures from the 10,000 treasure tower. They broke through the bottleneck of their cultivation and saw the hope of their cultivation again. Dozens of masters in the Jitan stage have joined the 10,000 treasure tower at the moment. Counting on them and the masters they later hired, their strength was already comparable to a small martial arts sect. The benefits of the 10,000 treasure tower were considered by Yang Chen, but the benefits of aligning with the South China Sea Alliance were in the Pyongyang Palace. One more ally would mean that they have one more road. Even if the disciples of the Pyongyang Palace go to the South China Sea, they would also have an asylum. About the detailed situation, the old tree demon Qi Shanyu was not very clear, but Yang Chen gave a detailed explanation. When Yang Chen explained the causes and consequences of the South China Sea Alliance's conspiracy, they came to understand that this time they unknowingly cut off a hidden wing of the Greatest Heaven sect. Yang Chen did not conceal the things about Zhanxian and the others. When they heard that the Greatest Heaven sect had damaged 21 masters of the Wielding stage, the happy faces of the master and the elders almost laughed out. It hit the enemy and strengthened itself. The material benefits were countless. Their 10 Wielding stage masters have gained valuable experience. They were hopeful of the future. Their secret Daching stage master could also release his killing intent, practice and improve. Everything was with such completeness, there was nothing unsatisfactory in the sect for them. Even if there were, it was the high-level executive who did not enjoy the baptism of the yin fire tribulation, but this opportunity was not available to everyone, and it was not always a good thing to encounter the enemy's tribulation. Regarding the matter in the Sea of No Return, Yang Chen didn't say much, and the master of the palace and the others did not delve into it. Where Yang Chen went to cultivate, that was his choice. As long as everyone knew that Yang Chen had finished training and he would return safely. They don't worry too much. Everyone got together and there was one thing to discuss with Yang Chen. This time, the Greatest Heaven sect sought the help of the Pyongyang Palace again. To be exact, it was the Greatest Heaven sect who came to beg for Yang Chen's help again. Including the previous interpretation of the secret key, this was the second time that the Greatest Heaven sect has sought Yang Chen's help. What they came to ask for could be guessed by Yang Chen with his eyes closed. It was nothing more than asking Yang Chen to make medicinal pills to treat the injuries of the 3 Daching stage masters in the Greatest Heaven sect. The masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect have recovered. If the Greatest Heaven sect was not jealous, it would be impossible. However, the Greatest Heaven sect was still reluctant to seek Yang Chen's help again. The Greatest Heaven sect, the leaders of the Tao sects, always asks others to come to their help. The sect still had different opinions on this. The last time they went to Yang Chen, it was known all over the mortal world, and the losses were heavy. Could they repeat the same mistake this time? But the 3 Daching stage masters was not something that a few proud guys in the Greatest Heaven sect could give up, especially when the wounded in Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect have been cured. It made sense, no matter what, the Greatest Heaven sect should also treat the 3 elders and let them recover. However, in the face of a small pure Yang palace, many people couldn't let go of this opportunity. In the past, it could be destroyed at any time and place, but they were unlucky. The century-old arrangement was destroyed once, allowing the pure Yang palace to develop. When it comes to this, many people hated Liang Shaming and Li Qingchen. Had it not been for Li Qingchen's own proposition to suppress Yang Chen at that time, maybe Liang Shaming would have already entered the high level of the pure Yang palace, and controlling the pure Yang palace would be nothing more than lifting a hand. By that time, wouldn't the pure Yang palace bring Yang Chen into the bag together? Where else would it be so troublesome now? Because of the damn guy, the arrangement of the sect was ruined, and Yang Chen, the talented master of alchemy, could not be offended anymore. Right now they had to bow their heads again and ask Yang Chen for help. After making this reluctant decision, the Greatest Heaven sect also started to operate. It's not easy to ask Yang Chen to refine the medicinal pill. The reward to Yang Chen was not a trivial matter. The Greatest Heaven sect has a great resource and doesn't care much about it, but some things have to be settled. The Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect had already agreed to the first and second refining from the Pure Yang Palace when Yang Chen promised to refine once every 25 years. Even if the Greatest Heaven sect could be ranked third, it would be 75 years later. What's more, the Greatest Heaven sect was not ranked third. The Five Element sect and Qianqin sect were also very sensitive to the issue because the two major sects were close to the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect. They were also early to get the news. For first and second, they could not compete with the allies of the Pure Yang Palace, the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect, but for the third and fourth, they could still compete for it. These two cases were made, and the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect did not object. Even if it was the Greatest Heaven sect, they could not obstruct it, and it was too much trouble for the Greatest Heaven sect. If the Greatest Heaven sect was willing to rank fifth, it would take 125 years to be able to treat the three Daching stage elders. After more than 120 years, the three Daching stage elders estimated that they could barely breathe a sigh of life. It used to be thought that the three elders would be cured within a few years, but 30 years have passed now. The Greatest Heaven sect discovered that the injuries to the three elders were far from simple. Their best result was the same as the Black Tiger predecessors, their injuries could only be suppressed, but they were slowly losing the battle, and they would finally die. It has been dragging on for 30 years, the Greatest Heaven sect had to bow their heads. This time, it was not just bowing to the Pure Yang Palace and Yang Chen. There was no shame in bowing to a doctor to treat their wounded. The problem was that the Greatest Heaven sect also had to get the Five Element sect, Qianqin sect, Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sects understanding first. These four ancestral sects were not ones that the Greatest Heaven sect could handle with too much pressure. To make them nod, the Greatest Heaven sect must also show enough sincerity. Without sufficient benefits, the four major sects obviously would not easily agree. They didn't know what price the Greatest Heaven sect paid that they were able to get the understanding of the four major sects, and they agreed to let the Greatest Heaven sect be the first one and the others delayed. However, Elder Mao Kai of the Greatest Heaven sect who came to the Pure Yang Palace to discuss matters was very unsightly. With the wealth of the Greatest Heaven sect, if the price was not steep, Mao Kai would never have this expression. The attitude of the Pure Yang Palace was very natural. It doesn't matter who comes first, whoever comes first they would serve them. However, for Yang Chen to help refine the fifth-grade medicinal pill that could cure the injuries of the three elders, the remuneration was not comparable to the refining of the questioning inner heart pill. One was life-saving, the other was for a breakthrough. In this regard, without the Pure Yang Palace saying anything, the Greatest Heaven sect would also actively raise the standard. Naturally, there was no need to mention the materials of the alchemy. 100 badges were prepared directly, which was definitely enough for Yang Chen to spoil at will. Among the rewards, it was needless to say that there were all kinds of fire seeds from low to high. There were 5 kinds of 5th grade fire seeds alone, and 2 kinds of 6th grade fire seeds were added. In addition, there were 100,000 volumes of books in the collection of the Greatest Heaven sect, as well as 2 fire-type flying swords, carefully crafted by the Greatest Heaven sect's Grandmaster Refiner, one for 3rd and 4th fire each. Whether it was the fire seeds, flying swords or books, it was arranged according to Yang Chen's preferences. In addition, there were 10 jin of top-grade spirit stones, 10 spirit springs with different flavors, hundreds of jars of 10 kinds of wines, plus their own brewing methods, and 500 tea trees of different hundreds of years of maturity. These were things Yang Chen used to buy at various auctions. Finally, there was a good medicine garden space and a pill furnace, which have been refined by the masters of the Greatest Heaven sect for more than hundreds of years. It was originally intended for some outstanding disciples of the sect. In order to please Yang Chen, they had to painfully give it up. After saying all this, the master of the palace had Yang Chen to look at it and asked casually, "How about? Would you agree with the Greatest Heaven sect? If you don't want to, then I'll push the matter. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 426. Dragon Clan's Magic Weapon. I will do it. Why not? Yang Chen immediately said. The other party sent so many good things. If Yang Chen didn't smile while getting it, it would be silly of him. As for saying that the masters of the Daching stage being rescued belong to the enemy, Yang Chen would not mind. After hearing that the young sect master of the greatest heaven sect often fainted, Yang Chen had a bigger plan in his mind. He saw the opportunity being delivered to his door, why should he reject it? This plan was not even mentioned by Yang Chen to the master of the palace, but he only had a draft in his mind. For Yang Chen, was there anything better than having the knife ready for the enemy to send their body to his door by themselves? The head of the palace looked at Yang Chen unexpectedly, and he seemed to want to see something from Yang Chen's face. After looking at it for a while, it seemed that Yang Chen was very serious, and then he nodded. Okay, if you say yes, then refine it for them. At the end, another sentence was added. The reward has to be sent first. In addition to Yang Chen's personal remuneration, the Pure Yang Palace was naturally indispensable. In this regard, the master of the palace has never been blinded by the false promises of others. If they wanted to give something, they must send it in. If they don't send it, they would leave it alone. This time the greatest heaven sect sent out everything. There was also real benefit to the Pure Yang Palace. There were 3 fine gold veins, plus 2 top quality spiritual veins. It was comparable to all the spirit veins originally in the Myking Mountain. It was not a small gift. Negotiations were naturally led by the palace master, and soon Yang Chen returned to Gaoyu again. It took another year to return from the Sea of No Return, although he has never dared to cultivate the 3 purities secret art on the road, his spiritual awareness was slowly increasing, and it has reached the point where it cannot be suppressed. Gongsun Ling didn't leave Gaoyu, the 3 of them quickly entered the Immortal Cave, without being able to say too much. In their well-prepared house, Yang Chen began to cultivate the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra with the 2 women. It started with Gaoyu and Yang Chen, and Gongsun Ling was their protector. As soon as Gaoyu entered the state of cultivation, she immediately realized that her beloved spiritual awareness had become so powerful that she could not understand it. That was a realm that was even more powerful than the Daching stage. At the level of Gaoyu, she didn't even know what that realm was called. Those were the things that they would pay attention to after the Daching stage. She never thought that when her own beloved was in the Jitan stage, he had such a powerful spiritual awareness. The more powerful the spiritual awareness was, for magic weapon control, for spiritual power control, it became more handy. In addition, there were also countless benefits to refining alchemists. Yang Chen's ability to reach the level of the 5th grade alchemy master with his cultivation base has nothing to do with his powerful spiritual awareness. However, for Yang Chen, the rapid growth of his spiritual awareness would bring about serious consequences of the split of his spiritual awareness. Although the ultimate goal of the 3 purities secret art was to split the spiritual awareness, it does not mean that the sooner the split, the better. At this point, Yang Chen knew it, Gaoyu and Gongsun Ling knew it equally. Gaoyu frantically wanted to take control in the double cultivation and lead the 2's cultivation. She just wanted to do her best to make Yang Chen's realm of spiritual awareness slightly lower, and there was no longer the danger of his spiritual awareness splitting. This time, the cultivation was completely different from the past. When Yang Chen's spiritual awareness realm was still in the Daching stage, Gaoyu could dominate their cultivation. But now, even after Gaoyu has done her best, but still could not shake Yang Chen's spiritual awareness in the slightest. Easily, Yang Chen gained the initiative of the cultivation. Yang Chen didn't even move this idea, everything was done spontaneously. The realm of human immortal 1st grade has surpassed the limits of this world. Even if Gaoyu already has the middle Yuning stage spiritual awareness, she still couldn't resist. Soon, the 2 entered the process of double cultivation under Yang Chen's spiritual awareness's spontaneous dominance. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was like a vast mountain and a magnificent sea, but Gaoyu herself was like a leaf-shaped boat. She couldn't help but oscillate with Yang Chen's spiritual awareness. Gaoyu only felt that her beloved, her original apprentice, now seemed to have become the master of this world, holding her body and mind firmly. She doesn't need to do anything at all, it seems that as long as she follows in his footsteps, she could break through the mortal world. Gaoyu was so intoxicated by this speechless feeling of being conquered. In Yang Chen's arms, it was so warm and so captivating. Gaoyu was immersed in this feeling and has been completely unable to extricate herself. Her own heart, her own god, she hated that everything couldn't be put into him so she could become one with Yang Chen. In this tacit understanding on both sides, the spiritual awareness of Yang Chen and Gaoyu changed again. Gaoyu's spiritual awareness continued to rise, directly breaking through the middle period of Yuning stage and went straight into the late Yuning stage. There was no rest, it was still soaring. Yang Chen, however, started making another change. Now the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra double cultivation could no longer increase his spiritual awareness, but it condensed Yang Chen's current spiritual awareness as much as possible. The increasingly pure and concise spiritual awareness effectively organized the possibility of divisiveness and temporarily prevented Yang Chen from worrying again in a short period of time. After the spiritual awareness double cultivation, Gao Yu's spiritual awareness soared to the peak Yuaning stage until she could not improve anymore in a short period of time. However, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was still above the human immortal first grade and could no longer reduce back. It was only after this spiritual awareness double cultivation that the spiritual awareness became more stable and more condensed. The next was Gongsun Ling and Yang Chen cultivating and Gao Yu protecting them. Like Gao Yu's result, with a middle Yuaning stage spiritual awareness, Gongsun Ling's spiritual awareness soared to the peak Yuaning stage, and similarly, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness did not fall in the slightest. The only gain was that the spiritual awareness became more stable, more condensed and more refined. The two double cultivations with the two women allowed Yang Chen to temporarily alleviate the threat of the split of his spiritual awareness. At least now he could continue to cultivate the three purities secret art instead of waiting. Within a year or two, Yang Chen could ignore the threat. However, in order to completely solve this problem, more effective methods were needed. Maybe, with the dancing snow fairy Sun Qingxu and the cold plum fairy Zhanxian, these two fiancés of his who have never cultivated the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra could give Yang Chen more time. The two women failed to make Yang Chen completely resolve the threat, so they were a little disappointed in their hearts. Even the fact that their spiritual awareness reached the peak Yuaning stage failed to dilute this regret. Although it was known from the beginning that the effect of the two of them would not be very good, but they thought that they would still be a bit lucky. Moreover, in the hearts of the two women, it was not impossible to form an alliance to temporarily resist Zhanxian and Sun Qingxu. If the two women could solve it, wouldn't it be possible for Zhanxian and Sun Qingxu to have less contact with Yang Chen? Yang Chen did not expect the two women to have such a mind. In 1 or 2 years, he could find Sun Qingxu and Zhanxian and stabilize the realm of his spiritual awareness. For the three purities secret art to split his spiritual awareness, it was best to go to the spiritual realm, which was good for future development. But if there was really no way the division would happen in the mortal world, it would only take more hard work in the future to ascend the realm. Anyway, Yang Chen already has the three purities secret art, this heaven-defying ultimate weapon. Even if it was hard, it was much better than ordinary cultivators. Now there was only Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling, so Yang Chen didn't hide from them either. He briefly talked about his gains in the Sea of No Return this time. Of course, those adventures have not been elaborated, just that he has received some help from the Dragon Yuan and all his realms have improved. To enhance Yang Chen's strength, the two women were naturally happy. As for talking about the Dragon Palace, the two women only listened to him, especially when they heard some wonderful things. Instead, about where Yang Chen got the keys, they didn't care. In fact, the two women knew that Yang Chen had found the legendary Dragon Palace. Otherwise, where would the mountain river geographical map and the two water and fire dragon horns come from? There were more Dragon Clan magic weapons, and it was very normal. Apart from being happy, Yang Chen carefully took out the fragmented South China Sea chart and placed it on the ground. Aling, try it out, can the mountain river geographical map collect this chart? Yang Chen said to Gongsun Ling, who was admiring the dragon magic weapon. As early as in the Dragon Palace, Yang Chen had such an idea. Now that the South China Sea chart has been fragmented, it was better to let the mountain river geographical map absorb it. They were all Dragon Palace treasures. After Yang Chen's words, Gongsun Ling was almost sanctified for the purpose of listening, but that was the order of her husband. Gongsun Ling did not hesitate and immediately began to try to manipulate the mountain river geographical map. With more than 100 Yuaning masters, Gongsun Ling now controls the mountain river geographical map easily. In the face of such unmanned control, the former magic weapon of the Dragon Clan, which was motionless and damaged, absorbed it easily. But soon, Gongsun Ling quickly sat on the ground. As she began to control the fusion of the two magic weapons, the process came so suddenly that even Gongsun Ling was not prepared for it. Seeing this, Yang Chen hurried up to help. It was also the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra cultivation method that was used, but it was only a conscious effort to strengthen the power of Gongsun Ling's spiritual awareness to control the mountain river geographical map. With the peak Yuaning stage spiritual awareness, it was indeed difficult to control the fusion of the two magic weapons. But immediately after Yang Chen joined, qualitative changes took place. Not to mention that Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base has reached the human immortal first grade. However, Yang Chen and Xiao Yan have a master-slave relationship and Yang Chen's spiritual awareness has a little of its aura. This aura of the Dragon Clan was the key to controlling the mountain river geographical map of and the South China Sea chart. As soon as Yang Chen exerted his power, Gongsun Ling no longer had the pressure and became relaxed and comfortable. The fusion of the two magic weapons also began to proceed in an orderly way. Gongsun Ling was pleasantly surprised that the two magic weapons were not just a simple fusion of dragon magic weapons, but the chart inspired further changes in the Mountain River geographical map. The Mountain River geographical map has a characteristic. The places that it passed by would be formed by the Mountain River geographical map in the map to form a virtual reality geography. The more places it passed by, the larger the geographical area of such virtual mountains and rivers, and the stronger the power would be. Now, the absorption of the chart from the South China Sea has directly added a whole terrain of the South China Sea to the Mountain River geographical map. Although it was a fragmented chart and no longer has the ability to absorb spiritual power, the chart was still perfect. In the process of fusion, the entire South China Sea was mapped on the Mountain River geographical map. By the time the integration was complete, a complete map of the South China Sea has been added to the Mountain River geographic map. The part that borders the East China Sea was also integrated into one part and then it became part of each other. The area in the entire Mountain River geographic map has more than doubled. Not only that, the original map of the South China Sea, but also the distribution map of all rivers and water networks that flow from the Central Plains to the South China Sea near the seashore. During the process of integration, all the maps were drawn in the Mountain River geographical map. In just a few days, the power of Gongsun Ling's Mountain River geographical map has doubled. The increase in the area above the Mountain River geographic map also promoted the cultivation base of the masters of the wielding stage in the picture. Their cultivation has also made Gongsun Ling more relaxed when sacrificially refining the Mountain River geographic map. Just in the past few days, the Mountain River geographical map has been reborn. As long as it was not exhausted in a death match, this Mountain River geographical map already had the power to fight against ordinary masters for several hours. Of course, the higher the opponent's cultivation base was, the shorter the time that the Mountain River geographic map could fight. Gongsun Ling simply has a big ultimate weapon and also has a sharp weapon for self-defense. Everyone knew the famous Puryang Palace Array cultivator, but at this moment she already has the ability to fight against some extreme masters in the wielding stage. Yang Chen and her two fiancés were cultivating here, but the Greatest Heaven sect has been unable to wait and sent the rewards and alchemy ingredients to the Puryang Palace. They just hoped that Yang Chen could do it right away so that their injured elders could be spared the pain and to become masters of the daching stage again. However, this plan was doomed to fail. After this trip to the Dragon Palace, with the help of the Dragon Yuan, Yang Chen got a great promotion. If he didn't take advantage of the time to digest and absorb this power and didn't take advantage of this time to strengthen himself, he would be a fool. No matter how unwilling Gongsun Ling and Gao Yu were, Yang Chen set out on the way to meet Sun Qingsu and Zhanxian. Before refining the alchemy for the Greatest Heaven sect, Yang Chen must also resolve his hidden dangers. Otherwise, if half of the refining of the elixir was disturbed, even if Yang Chen was a 5th grade alchemy master, it would be a pity. He just didn't know what kind of surprise Zhanxian and Sun Qingsu would bring to him this time. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 427. Double Cultivation with Zhanxian. Even the Greatest Heaven sect were asking for Yang Chen's help, coupled with the influence of the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect, as well as the Five Element sect and Qianqin sect. Now would there be any guys with short eyesight who dared to fight Yang Chen, that would simply be throwing their life away. In this regard, the Greatest Heaven sect regarded it as a remedy and another way of killing people to silence them. After Yang Chen and the Puryang Palace agreed to refine the elixir for the Greatest Heaven sect, at least 14 of the killers who have accepted the assassination of Yang Chen and the secret killer organization was uprooted. The heads were sent to the Puryang Palace and they were placed behind the series of heads to shock the mortal world. Yang Chen could even guess that these killer organizations were definitely hired by the Greatest Heaven sect at that time and now they turned their face in disregard. Their heads became a way for the Greatest Heaven sect to please Yang Chen and at the same time, they cut off the possibility of people knowing that the Greatest Heaven sect had done this. Of course, Yang Chen must know that the Greatest Heaven sect has been used and the lives of the 6 masters of the wielding stage have been solved by one stroke, which was absolutely beyond concealment. These heads were the sincerity of the Greatest Heaven sect now and also an attitude of the Greatest Heaven sect. Those who ask for someone's help must have the proper attitude. As to how the Greatest Heaven sect would react after this incident was another matter. In this world, there are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. When there were benefits, even friends could become enemies. Yang Chen smiled and accepted this sincerity. He took the sincerity sent by the Greatest Heaven sect in his merit ring and embarked on his journey to the Green Jade Immortal Island. It takes time for the small and large fire seeds to absorb and integrate, but Yang Chen does not have this time now. He must first find the two women to solve his spiritual awareness problem. Fortunately, Zhanxian was training her apprentice in the sect, so Yang Chen easily met his fiancée. In the Green Jade Immortal Island, Yang Chen was not having an ordinary popularity now, those disciples helping to receive Yang Chen, basically everyone could get some small gifts from Yang Chen. Although it was only a small first-grade inner sensing pill, it was sent by a 5th-grade alchemy master, and it was still useful to everyone. The disciples in charge of the sect reception were full of expectations for Yang Chen. "You're here?" When she saw Yang Chen, Zhanxian's eyes clearly flashed a little surprise, but she returned to normal immediately and asked with her usual indifferent voice. In front of her apprentice, Zhanxian has to maintain that frosty look. "Greetings." Zhanxian's female disciple has almost the same character as Zhanxian. Seeing Yang Chen appear, she just bowed and saluted but showed no other reaction. Like Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling, when Zhanxian chose her disciple, she was also a female disciple. This disciple's qualifications were also very good, the same glamorous flower appearance, but frosty look, under the guidance of Zhanxian, her cultivation base was not low. She was already at the peak foundation stage and would reach the Jitan stage soon. "Here is a gift for our first meeting ceremony." Yang Chen wasn't embarrassed either, but took a first-grade inner sensing pill and handed it to her. This was the apprentice to his fiancée, so he must be partial. In addition, there were second-grade inner sensing pills. He believed that if she had enough understanding, relying on these elixir would be enough for her to condense her Dan quickly. "Thank you, sir." This female disciple of Zhanxian was indeed not low-minded, she was very intelligent. Of course, she has heard of Yang Chen's name. Dan Yao started to see that there was one that was different from the others. At the moment, she pressed the joy in her heart and seemed to calmly thank Yang Chen. This master who doesn't look amazing was not an ordinary person now. A 5th-grade alchemy master that defeated her master in the same realm. She couldn't help but be shocked. What Zhanxian's fighting ability was, her disciple was the most clear about it. Soon, only Yang Chen and Zhanxian were left here. Others had great eyesight, and even Zhanxian's disciple was no exception. She was smarter than anyone and was the first to leave when she got something. Zhanxian made a restriction at will, and the space here became a private space for the two, no one could bother them. Later, Zhanxian looked at Yang Chen's eyes and she felt a little more tender. Yang Chen gently lifted Zhanxian's slim hand and sat down at the table together. With a little effort, Zhanxian leaned into Yang Chen's arms. Neither of them said much, but it seemed that there was a different kind of joy in their hearts, the feeling of reuniting after a long absence was so wonderful. If anyone saw Zhanxian's current appearance, they would be so shocked that they would drop their chin on the ground. It was a frosty cold plum fairy to anyone, but there was such a gentle side to her. Any apprentice who dares to make a move at Zhanxian couldn't escape, but Yang Chen's salty hand could be so presumptuous, it was really enviable. Although the action WSS intimate, Zhanxian's words were not much, almost nothing was said. Except for the first sentence "you came," there was nothing else. Nestled in Yang Chen's arms, Zhanxian's body also softened, as if all her previous persistence had been put down. Here, Yang Chen could completely relax without having to brace the face and responsibilities of her talented disciples. "I promised to refine an elixir to the greatest heaven sect a few days ago, so they sent me 500 years old tea trees, you and I will taste them in the future." Yang Chen said with a pleasant tone, "There are several more spirit springs, you will help me taste it when the time comes." The news really made Zhanxian happy. Although she still didn't speak, the smile on her face was richer and she nodded heavily. The greatest heaven sect sent this kind of thing, apparently it was to please Zhanxian, Yang Chen's fiancée. "Before refining the alchemy, I need some help from you." Yang Chen didn't talk much nonsense and straightforwardly stated his purpose. Zhanxian didn't know what it was, as if she didn't want to talk anymore, she just looked up at Yang Chen and nodded heavily. She doesn't seem to want to ask Yang Chen what he wants help with, as long as it was Yang Chen who needs it, she could be satisfied. "My spiritual awareness faced a little problem when I was cultivating." Yang Chen still told the truth, but just kept it a little bit vague. "I need you and I to have a spiritual awareness double cultivation." Spiritual awareness double cultivation. Zhanxian frowned. "What's wrong?" Yang Chen asked subconsciously. If Zhanxian couldn't do it, then he could only find Sun Qingxu alone. "I am already your fiancé, of course there is no problem with having a double cultivation." Zhanxian shook her head. "But, do you have the proper cultivation method?" "The Green Jade Immortal Island cultivation method, if you want to cultivate it, you need the approval of the island master." It turned out to be a problem because of the cultivation method, so Yang Chen was relieved. The Green Jade Immortal Island's cultivation method was definitely not bad, but compared with the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra, it was definitely not in the same grade. Yang Chen could use his life to guarantee this. In fact, even if Yang Chen needs it, the Green Jade Immortal Island would definitely give it to Yang Chen. It was just a double cultivation method, could it be compared with a favor from a 5th grade alchemist master? I have the cultivation method here. Yang Chen gave a positive reply to Zhanxian. On your side, would you like to explain to your sect elders? Zhanxian is already part of the Yang family in this life, you don't have to think about it a lot. Zhanxian shook her head slightly and explained, I just don't want you to always owe favor to others, even if it is Zhanxian's own family sect. For people in the cultivation world, the debt of favor was an extraordinary thing. Once there was the dilemma of a favor, when it was impossible to pay off, it was a great obstacle for spirit power cultivation. In the center of the spirit power cultivation, the clusters of heart devils could even endanger life. Zhanxian's move was also for Yang Chen's sake. This kind of favor was different from the kind that Sun Qingxu owed to Yang Chen, and the kind of favor owed to Yang Chen by the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect. The former was a family member, while the latter was a sect which has nothing to do with the individuals. Moreover, even if the sect asked Yang Chen to do something, they had to pay the corresponding price. It was considered as repaying this kind of favor, which would not affect his personal cultivation. Zhanxian was afraid that Yang Chen would be fettered. Although with Yang Chen's level in alchemy now, this kind of favor could easily be paid off. However, the fewer such things, the better. Otherwise, if a lot of time was spent on favors, it was also an obstacle to cultivation. But this kind of intention, Yang Chen wanted to appreciate it. For Yang Chen, Zhanxian did not even consider the Green Jade Immortal Island, her mind was completely on Yang Chen's side. This was greatly appreciated by Yang Chen, and he couldn't help but hold Zhanxian tighter, his lips were not hesitant to cover Zhanxian's lips. With her eyes closed, enjoying this caress by Yang Chen, Zhanxian was very indulged. It was only in Yang Chen's arms that Zhanxian was not the arrogant lady of the heavens, but an ordinary woman who made Yang Chen wantonly love her. This complete relaxation of her mind could only be done by Yang Chen, even in front of her master. Because Yang Chen defeated her in 10 completely different ways, no matter which one, it made Zhanxian inaccessible. This kind of master who made Zhanxian completely unable to rise up to the idea of rivaling was the love in Zhanxian's mind. The cold plum fairy's lover should be such a magnificent hero, when replaced by anyone else, Zhanxian cannot be convinced. With some loving care, Zhanxian didn't even want to leave Yang Chen's lips, but just enjoyed this feeling without any burden. Since Yang Chen last enlightened her, she let go of those unnecessary burdens. But it was only in front of Yang Chen that she could completely lay everything down. In front of others, she was still the cold and glorious plum fairy. A thought that Yang Chen considered. Yang Chen didn't even have to tell Zhanxian to keep his spiritual awareness state secret, he believed that Zhanxian would naturally keep her mouth shut for him. The character of the cold plum fairy, Yang Chen knew it in his previous life very well. Although the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra was mysterious, for Zhanxian this genius, there was not much problem in cultivating it. Quickly, Zhanxian understood the cultivation method. After trying to cultivate once, she began to cultivate with Yang Chen. Once in the state of cultivation, even if she never put anything in her eyes and was calm as a stone, she was taken aback by Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base. Adding together the masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island, it was estimated that none of their spiritual awareness was as strong as Yang Chen's. Zhanxian almost suppressed her horror, which didn't make her scream. This cultivation could no longer continue, but could only be stopped. How could this be? Zhanxian was oppressed by Yang Chen's spiritual awareness when she fought with Yang Chen last time, but at that time it was obviously not as it was now. In just a few years, Yang Chen had already improved up to such a point, Zhanxian could not help but be terrified. I just had a little chance encounter. Yang Chen's understatement omitted the process to the extreme, but also explained the reason, the spiritual awareness is too strong. If I cultivate it will lead to the splitting of the spiritual awareness, so we must use double cultivation to suppress it a bit. Zhanxian finally accepted that Yang Chen's spiritual awareness realm had surpassed this world, and she immediately felt sweet in her heart. Yang Chen certainly asked Zhanxian to help, but didn't he mean to help Zhanxian in turn? After stabilizing her emotions, Zhanxian finally succeeded in entering the state of double cultivation with Yang Chen. The effect of Zhanxian's first cultivation with him was as outstanding as Yang Chen expected. Originally, Zhanxian's spiritual awareness was infinitely close to the early Yuning stage. In this cultivation, she was guided by Yang Chen's spiritual awareness and began to rise steadily and quickly. At the early Yuning stage, in the middle Yuning stage and in the late Yuning stage, it reached the peak Yuning stage, then it stopped and then began to condense and purify. Yang Chen has also obtained huge benefits. The realm of his spiritual awareness has not declined madly because of this, but still stayed in the realm of the human immortal first grade. Exceeding the level of this mortal world, even if Zhanxian was promoted from the peak Jitan stage to the peak Yuning stage, it would have no influence on Yang Chen's realm. The biggest benefit of the two people's double cultivation was that Yang Chen's spiritual awareness realm has begun to be completely stabilized. Yang Chen was so worried about the split of his spiritual awareness that he was afraid of it forcibly splitting in a state where the spiritual awareness was not stable, which would bring many follow-up questions. Now this worry was completely gone. The spiritual awareness was now so solid, even when facing the thunder tribulation, yin fire tribulation and wind tribulation, if Yang Chen started to split his spiritual awareness then, there was no need to be afraid of subsequent troubles. This time, it has eliminated Yang Chen's worries. Then there was also Sun Qingxu. Yang Chen believed that after the same spiritual awareness double cultivation with Little Shu, at least after 200 years, even if he was promoted to the Yuning stage, there was no need to consider the trouble of the split of his spiritual awareness. As for speaking about the split would happen, anyway. The ultimate goal of the three purities secret art was to split the spiritual awareness. This time, Zhanxian was completely aware of her horror. With such a spiritual awareness realm, where else in the mortal world could Yang Chen not go? Because it was her own husband, at this moment, Zhanxian had never felt such pride. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 428. Surprise. Yang Chen left the Green Jade Immortal Island after he and Zhanxian cultivated for a month to completely stabilize Zhanxian's realm. Of course, it was necessary to also visit the Island Master. At present, the Island Master was indescribably kind to Yang Chen. Looking at Yang Chen with eyes that was kind, staring at her son-in-law, kind and happy. The Green Jade Immortal Island was the second in line for the refining, and now they are third. However, the Greatest Heaven sect had to bleed big this time, so the Green Jade Immortal Island has a lot of benefits. These were all related to Yang Chen. Everyone looked at Yang Chen with a smile on their faces. But this layer of relationship between Zhanxian and Yang Chen, and the constant cooperation between the Pure Yang Palace and the Green Jade Immortal Island, they had no worries about being unable to get the required elixir from Yang Chen. Even if Yang Chen can't keep up with the external refining of elixir, can't he get one or two additional refining opportunities from Yang Chen for Zhanxian's side? From the Island Master to the elders below, none of them objected to the marriage between Yang Chen and Zhanxian. Although Yang Chen and Zhanxian both had spiritual awareness double cultivation before informing them, they also received unanimous approval. With at least this level of relationship, Yang Chen couldn't leave the Green Jade Immortal Island behind again. When leaving the Green Jade Immortal Island, Zhanxian was as cold as ever on the surface. Only when she was in front of Yang Chen, she would show a little bit of reluctance from some obsessive movements. Once the proud genius was conquered, her whole heart seemed to have been given to her husband. As soon as I pass this level, I will marry you into the sect and never separate again. Yang Chen also knew Zhanxian's thoughts and gave her a small promise. I won't talk to anyone about your spiritual awareness. Zhanxian knew the importance and concentrated on the avenue, they only took a while to indulge. She calmly bids farewell to Yang Chen. You do your business with peace of mind. The cultivation is important. After he reluctantly said goodbye to Zhanxian, Yang Chen rushed directly to the Blue Cloud sect. The Blue Cloud sect's high-level reaction was exactly the same as that of the Green Jade Immortal Island. Elder Hua Wanting seems to be anxious to marry her apprentice off. She was very enthusiastic to greet Yang Chen, and she left Yang Chen and Sun Qingxu alone for some intimate time. Elder Hua knew her apprentice's thoughts on Yang Chen. Sun Qingxu had a strong attachment to Yang Chen from the beginning before becoming her disciple. Now Yang Chen first went to the Green Jade Immortal Island and spent a month, so the elder had a sense of crisis, for fear that Yang Chen would not pay much attention to Sun Qingxu because of this. Sun Qingxu and Zhanxian formed an alliance to deal with Gao Yu and Gongsun Ling. It's one thing, but there was competition between Sun Qingxu and Zhanxian. Sun Qingxu doesn't worry about it, but Elder Hua wanted her disciple to win. For her beloved disciple, Elder Hua spent a lot of effort. Obviously, Sun Qingxu was very happy to see Yang Chen. When there was no one else, almost her whole body was hanging down on Yang Chen, her small mouth talked non-stop, which was in stark contrast to Zhanxian, who cherished words like gold. Yang Chen also comforted Sun Qingxu, holding her all the time, making the little girl look like a cheerful koala. The smile on her face did not subside from the beginning, until Yang Chen told her that there was a problem with his spiritual awareness, then her look changed greatly. How can this be? Sun Qingxu's face was worried and she came down from Yang Chen, looking at Yang Chen with concern, her expression of worry was overflowing. It's not a big problem, it's just that I don't want a certain step to happen in advance. Yang Chen reached out and stroked Sun Qingxu's small face, smoothing out the wrinkles that appeared on her face because of the worry so, I need your help. How can I help? Sun Qingxu immediately woke up thinking about something and hurriedly asked, is double cultivation able to help you? Spiritual awareness double cultivation. Yang Chen slightly corrected Sun Qingxu's claims you don't have to use double cultivation. I will go to the hidden scripture pavilion to see if there are any good spiritual awareness double cultivation methods. Unlike Zhanxian, Sun Qingxu did not consider whether the blue cloud sex cultivation method would have any obstacles to Yang Chen, so she went to find it. She was different from Zhanxian, Sun Qingxu has a daching stage master and she has a totally different spirit in the sect. I have a cultivation method here. Yang Chen stopped Sun Qingxu from getting the cultivation method and passed the highest mystery yin-yang heart sutra to Sun Qingxu. After getting the cultivation method, Sun Qingxu immediately reported to her master and then pulled Yang Chen to start the seclusion. After just cultivating the cultivation method twice, she pulled Yang Chen to start the cultivation. The status of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was as shocking to Sun Qingxu, but she was not as shocked as Sun Qingxu, but thought that this was the trouble of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness now. After all, whoever has such a spiritual awareness, there was always the possibility of it being out of control. For the first time, during the spiritual awareness double cultivation, Sun Qingxu performed 100 times better than Zhanxian, at least she did not stop because of shock. But with a heart and mind for Yang Chen to solve the problem, she forcibly suppressed the shock and entered the state of cultivation. Sun Qingxu's spiritual awareness began to soar steadily and it soared towards the Breathtaking stage. But these ecstatic changes did not seem to matter at all in Sun Qingxu's eyes. She was always worried about whether Yang Chen's problem was solved. Immediately after the cultivation, Sun Qingxu began to question Yang Chen. Is it better? Sun Qingxu stared at Yang Chen's face tightly for fear that Yang Chen would speak bad words. I'm fine now. Yang Chen happily gave a reply to Sun Qingxu, it's never been better. After the spiritual awareness double cultivation with Sun Qingxu, Yang Chen's spiritual awareness has reached a level of it being astounding. Even in the memory of the previous Great Principle Golden Immortal owned by Yang Chen, until he reached the heavenly court, his spiritual awareness had not been so solid or condensed. As for the trouble of his spiritual awareness splitting, Yang Chen has no need to worry at all now. He could completely control his spiritual awareness and control the sea of consciousness. Before reaching the peak human immortal realm, Yang Chen could decide at any time whether he would split it or would not split it before crossing the human immortal realm into the earth immortal realm. The Three Purities secret art was indeed incredibly powerful. Without the Three Purities secret art, Yang Chen would not have achieved such success. At this time, Yang Chen thought of the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord. The Three Purities secret art was so powerful, which master could capture the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord? What kind of story was there? These things were far from Yang Chen, a mere mortal who cannot control the affairs of a Great Principle Golden Immortal. However, the immediate trouble was solved. Yang Chen could safely carry out the following plans without worrying about other troubles. Hearing Yang Chen's words, Sun Qingxu finally let go of her worries, her wide and tender little hand patted her chest gently and she took a breath and looked relaxed. Later, it seemed that Sun Qingxu had just discovered a change in her spiritual awareness and an incredible expression appeared on her face. Sun Qingxu was a genius in spirit power cultivation, but also a down-to-earth cultivator. Her cultivation skills have also allowed her to have a very balanced spirit power and spiritual awareness cultivation base, there was not much difference between them. But now her spiritual awareness suddenly skyrocketed to the Breathtaking stage, let alone Sun Qingxu, any cultivator would know what it meant. Originally, she was a genius in spirit power cultivation. At this moment, Sun Qingxu's path of spirit power cultivation would be unhindered. The ecstatic Sun Qingxu could no longer suppress her joy and hugged Yang Chen. The tears of joy couldn't help but fall down, just like a string of crystal pearls. It seems that Sun Qingxu, who wanted to rub herself into Yang Chen's body, has completely released her emotions after Yang Chen resolved his troubles when they cultivated together. After crying happily for a while, Sun Qingxu grabbed Yang Chen's neck and aligned her delicate face with Yang Chen's face. Then actively printed a red lips to Yang Chen's lips. It was a long time before the lips of the two separated and Sun Qingxu's eyes flashed with fascination. Then, she closed her eyes happily, her red lips came to Yang Chen's ears and she said gently, "Brother Yang wants me." After saying this, Sun Qingxu's face was already flushed and her little body became a little hot and her face was buried in Yang Chen's neck, she never dared to look up. Although she was already known as Yang Chen's fiancée. But when she said that, she still needed tremendous courage. In the mind of Sun Qingxu, she has already regarded herself as Yang Chen's person. From the beginning of her meeting with Yang Chen until Yang Chen helped her to change her master and later several meetings, Sun Qingxu couldn't forget each time. Her heart has long been firmly tied to Yang Chen's body. This time, finally, she clearly expressed her emotions to Yang Chen. The young girl's coyness made Yang Chen so excited that he couldn't help it. In the future, the world-famous dancing snow fairy said in his arms that he wanted her, how proud and longing it was. Now it happened in front of his eyes. Almost exhausted, Yang Chen resisted such an irresistible temptation. After embracing Sun Qingxu for a while, Yang Chen just smiled bitterly. I have the proper dual cultivation method, but we need to cultivate after we all reach the Yuanying stage, otherwise it will affect the future cultivation. Yang Chen seemed to be bleeding when he spoke. What a good opportunity, but he was even pushing her away stiffly. You can rest assured that we will get married in a few days, and after a few decades, you and I will cross the thunder tribulation and form our nascent soul. We will always be together and never be separated again. Just as he promised Zhanxian, Yang Chen also gave Sun Qingxu a promise. Sun Qingxu was slightly disappointed, but also knew that Yang Chen was thinking about herself and Yang Chen. So she shyly accepted Yang Chen's opinion. For the next month, Yang Chen would practice with Sun Qingxu once a day until Sun Qingxu's spiritual awareness state was completely settled and stabilized. The days they spent together were always short, and in a blink of an eye it was time for Yang Chen to leave. Like Zhanxian, Sun Qingxu also knew what Yang Chen's spiritual awareness meant. It was a wife's duty to keep his husband's secret, and Sun Qingxu did not talk to anyone about Yang Chen's secrets. Yang Chen no longer had any worries and began to design his plans for the Greatest Heaven Sect this time. Everything would start with Yang Chen refining the elixir for the Greatest Heaven Sect. Back at the Pure Yang Palace, Yang Chen directly met with a representative from the Greatest Heaven Sect. Since Yang Chen promised to refine for them, the Greatest Heaven Sect has been stationed in the Pure Yang Palace and could contact Yang Chen at any time. Yang Chen left the Pure Yang Palace to solve his own troubles. The people in the Greatest Heaven Sect were disappointed, to be honest. Fortunately, it took only half a year for Yang Chen to return back to the sect. Moreover, Yang Chen's attitude was very good. He met with the representatives as soon as he returned to the sect. I need to see the injuries of the several elders with my own eyes to decide what kind of elixir to make. He knew that the Greatest Heaven Sect were anxious. Yang Chen didn't talk nonsense and directly asked. How could the Greatest Heaven Sect not agree to such a request? To be honest, this was the responsible attitude. After all, the injuries of the 3 elders in the Greatest Heaven Sect were much heavier than those of the 3 elders in the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud Sect. It was difficult to say whether the 5th grade Spirit Mushroom Jade Dew Pill could be used to cure them. Yang Chen's visit could also make people in the Greatest Heaven Sect feel more at ease. The Greatest Heaven Sect's representative immediately began to arrange, without even asking anyone. This time, Yang Chen took the clone of the old tree demon and went straight to the Greatest Heaven Sect. This was the first time since Yang Chen was reborn that he set foot on the Greatest Heaven Sect's grounds. The high level of the Greatest Heaven Sect still wanted to kill Yang Chen as before. Even now, there were still a large number of senior people who wanted him to die. But when he arrived at the Greatest Heaven Sect, he was very comically given the high-level courtesy of the Greatest Heaven Sect. There was no real mockery. The Welcome Master Yang's team, a young figure which Yang Chen was very familiar with, appeared. The young sect master of the Greatest Heaven Sect, Li Lihing, as the young sect master, he appeared on this occasion without any surprise. The senior members of the Greatest Heaven Sect with Yang Chen were sharp. When they reached Li Lihing, they unexpectedly stayed for a while. It was quite polite of them to look at Li Lihing up and down for a long time, and Yang Chen suddenly said something that surprised everyone. Young sect master, your spiritual awareness is very interesting, but it has a little flaw. After saying this, Yang Chen said nothing more and turned to the next elder. Everyone heard something inexplicable and could not understand what Yang Chen meant. But everyone heard from Yang Chen's words. It seemed that Li Lihing was syncoped from time to time. Yang Chen should know some reasons, otherwise he wouldn't say something like flaws. Li Lihing's fists were shaken on the spot and he almost lost his temper due to his turbulent mood. The fainting from time to time made Li Lihing very suspicious in the sect, and now someone finally knows what the reason was. But those that were shocked the most was not Li Lihing, but the sect master and several core elders who understood what Li Lihing cultivated. The several people looked at each other calmly and they all saw the surprise in the eyes of each other. If Li Lihing's problem could be solved, does it not mean that he could connect with his predecessors in the spiritual world? If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 429. Bait. Yang Chen just swayed in front of Li Lihing and never mentioned it again. In the Greatest Heaven sect, Yang Chen easily saw the 3 injured Daching stage elders. The 3 elders were very tightly protected and it was impossible to see idlers around them, but Yang Chen was an exception. This time, Yang Chen not only saw the 3 elders, but also diagnosed the pulses of the 3 elders and even consulted the 3 elders on some physical feelings. After obtaining the consent of the 3, he probed their bodies with his spiritual awareness. Faced with the only alchemy master who could recover their injuries, the 3 injured elders expressed their full cooperation, which was the first time in the history of the Greatest Heaven sect. Soon Yang Chen came to the conclusion that the 3 elders had no problems with taking the 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pill. However, because their injuries were too severe, the whole process of healing would take longer than the 3 masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect. Even if they take the 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pill, it would take half a year. And Yang Chen also said that he no longer had the 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pill, and the entire refining process would take almost 2 years. Counting the 6 months of recovery, if the 3 elders wanted to recover, it would take at least 2.5 years. From sitting and waiting for death to healing in 2.5 years, the difference in results were quite different. Not to mention that as long as 2.5 years, they could afford to wait even 20 years. 20 years to heal 3 Daching stage masters, who would be unwilling? Yang Chen only said this and nothing else was mentioned. Several senior officials of the Greatest Heaven sect hoped that Yang Chen could bring up the subject of the young sect master Li Lihing, but Yang Chen did not say a word, as if he had completely forgotten it. From entering the domain of the Greatest Heaven sect to leaving, the clone of the old tree demon Gi Shanyu has been following him inseparable. Although Yang Chen was now well known, the Greatest Heaven sect should not have other ideas. But the human heart was indispensable, the old tree demon follows, just in case. Once the other party wanted to capture Yang Chen and use various methods to learn the secret of Yang Chen's alchemy ascension, Yang Chen was bound to expose his state of spiritual awareness, which was very detrimental to his future plans. Although the other 4 major sects would never allow this to happen, no one was sure what the Greatest Heaven sect would do. The old tree demon was responsibly calmed down and it was thoughtful for both parties to leave. No major friction occurred. Until Yang Chen's figure disappeared into the sky, the Greatest Heaven sect Master Li and several core elders in the Greatest Heaven sect were still watching Yang Chen's disappearing direction for a long time, unwilling to move. "Master, they are gone." There was still an elder who couldn't stand it and he gently reminded them. The thoughts of several senior executives turned back to the issue. Looking at each other, they all felt like they had something to say. Soon, everyone gathered in the most important hall of the Greatest Heaven sect. There were only a few elders and sect master Li who knew the inside of Li Lihing's cultivation. They did not add up to 10 people. He said that the matter of the young sect master was really seen by him, or did he hear it and tell it to us intentionally? Someone eagerly asked this question. The significance of Li Lihing's cultivation was too great for the Greatest Heaven sect. So much so that Li Lihing even became the young sect master of the Greatest Heaven sect just because he sent out thousands of spiritual awareness marks. For this reason, the sect master gave him the same surname as Li Lihing also bears some bad reputations. So far, there were rumors inside and outside the sect that Li Lihing was his illegitimate son. These people now know that the relationship between the sect master and Li Lihing was by no means a father-son relationship speculated by the outside world. However, no one would explain it, they would only secretly value Li Lihing's cultivation. Over the years, Li Lihing has been fainting from time to time, never more than 10 days between 2 consecutive times. They thought that Li Lihing's cultivation has failed, but today Yang Chen's words gave everyone hope. Who was Yang Chen, although he was not a man in the Greatest Heaven sect, and even all of them present were eager for Yang Chen to die after he has refined the elixir, but no one would doubt his genius in refining, nor would they doubt his authority in treating some of the expert injuries. The 3 Daching stage masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect, the Black Tiger predecessor of the Beast Taming sect, the 4 Daching masters, have all proved this with iron facts. Yang Chen said that he could treat the injuries of the 3 elders. The Greatest Heaven sect would never doubt it. Although they regard Yang Chen as their enemy, they did not hesitate to believe Yang Chen on this issue. However, what confuses everyone was Li Lihing's problem. The young sect master of the Greatest Heaven sect got a strange disease and the cultivators have been rumoring about this and Yang Chen certainly knew that. He said that, in the end, did he really see that Li Lihing had a problem with his spiritual awareness or did he deliberately make use of Li Lihing's strange reason? I see, maybe this guy said it on purpose. Many people thought so and someone said it immediately. We sent someone to kill him several times and he certainly knows our previous attitude, otherwise he would not take Qi Shanyu with him. This was also a very normal guess. One sentence could make the Greatest Heaven sect's high-level leaders upset and they were happy to say such a sentence. Several elders immediately reconciled and most of them nodded frequently. Only the sect master and the two elders were serious and did not express their stand. Peak, two soft coughs stopped everyone's words and all eyes focused on the elder who coughed. Recently we learned a message from the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect. The elder said slowly after everyone had calmed down. However, the expression of speech was dignified beyond words. The cold plum fairy Zhanxian and the dancing snow fairy Sun Qingxu, after Yang Chen recently visited them, their spiritual awareness cultivation base was suddenly advanced and it is said that they had already reached the level of late wielding stage, far exceeding their previous state. The elder continued and according to our people's careful inquiry Yang Chen's master Gao Yu and apprentice sister Gonsan Ling, their spiritual awareness cultivation base is not under the middle wielding stage. Boom, this news suddenly detonated in the hall. The four Jitan stage juniors, what it means for them to have a spiritual awareness in the middle and late wielding stage was clearer to them. These four people were closely related to Yang Chen and all of them have undergone such changes. What kind of means does Yang Chen have in the aspect of spiritual awareness? In the major sects, the spies of the greatest heaven sect were indispensable, even in major sects such as the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect. After going through Yang Shaming's affairs, the Pure Yang Palace has cleansed its disciples on a large scale, but they may not be able to find out these two-minded people thoroughly. The changes in the spiritual awareness of Zhanxian and Sun Qingxu could not be concealed from their masters, and soon the two main sects discovered the changes in the two women. When asked carefully, they all just said that it was related to Yang Chen, no more words were said afterwards. The two sect senior officials immediately speculated that this was Yang Chen's doing. Whether it was medicinal herbs or cultivation methods, he always had a benefit to his fiancée. This kind of thing was quickly known to all the high-level officials and then only a few words were spread out after someone inquired, they soon got the news. Although it was not clear to what extent the two women's realm was, it was certain, at least in the late wielding stage. The news that the elders in the greatest heaven sect could get must have been verified. The elder said so it means that they are inseparable. It would not be possible for anyone to have the wielding stage spiritual awareness in the Jitan period. Although it was normal for the spiritual awareness and spirit power to be inconsistent, there would be no such thing as such a big difference between it like in the case of the four women. This could only prove one point. In this respect, Yang Chen has a unique technique. This also shows from the side that in terms of the study of spiritual awareness, Yang Chen also has the same level as in his alchemy. In this case, Yang Chen may have truly seen what was happening to Li Lihing, which may be true. He really saw the problem on Li Lihing and knew what happened. Thinking of this, the people in the hall were excited. If Yang Chen could really solve Li Lihing's problem, it means that Li Lihing could normally cultivate that unique technique. Once Li Lihing was able to connect with the seniors in the spirit world, the time that the greatest heaven sect would rule the mortal world, it was just around the corner. However, these were still in the imagination of everyone. There was also a real problem before everyone. One was how to verify whether Yang Chen really knows Li Lihing's problem, and the other was how much it would cost to get Yang Chen to help. This time, for Yang Chen to make the elixir for healing the wounds of the three elders, the greatest heaven paid with their blood. But for Li Lihing who was able to successfully communicate with the seniors in the spiritual world, they were not on the same important level at all. Even if for Li Lihing, they paid several times more than this time, the greatest heaven would be willing. The focus of everyone's discussion turned to these two issues, and they began to offer suggestions. In order to achieve the purpose of making Yang Chen help them again. After Yang Chen dropped a bait, he never cared about the greatest heaven sect again. If he was in a hurry to give the greatest heaven sect the benefit and his performance was too positive, it may make people doubt. What Yang Chen had to do now was to pretend to refine their pills. That's right, it's just a pretense. Yang Chen didn't have any plan to open the furnace for refining the 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pill. The last time he gave proof to Sun Qingxu. 5 spirit mushroom jade dew pills were refined, 3 were used by the 3 elders of the 2 sects, and 2 were left in Yang Chen's hands. These 2 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pills were enough for the greatest heaven sect. They hired a 5th grade alchemist to make a move and bring their own herbs, and the success rate was not guaranteed. Even if Yang Chen consumed all the medicinal materials this time and none of the elixir would be given to the greatest heaven sect. The greatest heaven sect has nothing to say. The 5th grade medicinal pill could never be successfully refined once or twice. For a master in the Jitan stage, if one of 10 refinings could be successfully refined, it was already an achievement against the sky. Not to mention that Yang Chen also took out 2 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pills, which was enough to satisfy the greatest heaven sect. As for how to assign the 2 elixirs to the 3 people, it's not Yang Chen's problem, but the problem of the greatest heaven sect. In the case of two peaches killing three men, Yang Chen could not have happened in the Greatest Heaven sect. Two elixir were given to them, and he was expecting chaos in the Greatest Heaven sect. Each of the three daching stage masters has a lot of disciples, and there are many factions inside the sect, and the three daching masters were the leaders of the three factions. No matter how the two elixirs were distributed, there would always be a master who cannot get them. Which faction would be willing to sacrifice their own patrons and leaders while the wounded in another faction recovered quickly? As long as this meant it was inevitable, the three factions would inevitably suffer. On one hand, they attack each other verbally, and on the other hand, they may strike out. In either case, the Greatest Heaven sect's executives would have headaches. Having figured out the situation, the Greatest Heaven sect not only could not blame Yang Chen, but also thanked him vigorously. Not to mention 2 5th grade spirit mushroom jade dew pills, even if there was only one, or not even one, the Greatest Heaven sect couldn't say anything. Before the alchemy, they must be prepared to withstand this result. This was all the rule for seeking help in alchemy. If the Greatest Heaven sect was unwilling, there were people waiting in line to ask Yang Chen to make a move. It took a huge price to let Yang Chen take a shot. How could the Greatest Heaven sect let these costs go for nothing? In fact, since the Greatest Heaven sect made up their mind to ask Yang Chen for help, they had fallen into a passive state. This was an unavoidable thing. Begging people must have a begging attitude. After all, Yang Chen was needed to help them. The civil strife in the Greatest Heaven sect was unavoidable, but it was only a matter of strength. For Yang Chen, as long as he could bring trouble to the Greatest Heaven sect, he was willing to do so. The trouble was that the more things that happen inside the Greatest Heaven sect, the better. Even without Yang Chen's hands, the internal consumption could slowly eat into the Greatest Heaven sect's strength. This was just the appetizer prepared by Yang Chen for the Greatest Heaven sect. The real meal was still behind. Li Lihing's bait was thrown out, and Yang Chen didn't believe that the Greatest Heaven sect would not swallow the bait. As long as the Greatest Heaven sect arrives at that's the time for the next step. As for the present, Yang Chen was to use the excuse of alchemy to first absorb the fire seed sent from the Greatest Heaven sect and further improve the quality of the profound spirit furnace. The higher the quality of the profound spirit furnace, the higher the success rate of Yang Chen's refining of higher grade elixir, and the more kinds of fire seed stored, the greater the power of Yang Chen's yin-yang heaven burning fire. After 2 years, Yang Chen's refining of elixir was completed and 2 elixir were delivered to the Greatest Heaven sect. Yang Chen and the head of the palace was waiting to watch the drama of an internal war in the Greatest Heaven sect. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 430. When Yang Chen started to refine the pills, the people in the Greatest Heaven sect finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they waited for 2 years, they would have the life-saving elixir. No one would know that Yang Chen's retreat was just him being together with his master. When he was free, he talked about cultivation, or they drank tea, or did both. Gongsun went out again to perfect her mountain river geographical map. Under the constant exploration of Gongsun, the power of the mountain river geographical map has burst out, and even in the tempering process of the life source magic weapon, it could attack. This was a subversion of the whole concept of life source magic weapon. However, this kind of thing could only be done by Gongsun mountain river geographical map. No one else has the powerful magic weapon of the Dragon Clan, and there were hundreds of Yuning stage and 2 Daching stage masters trapped in the magical fantasy world. It was not impossible to do this by providing Gongsun with a lot of spiritual powers. After returning, Gao Yu inspected several times and found that Yang Chen didn't have to worry about the problem of his spiritual awareness splitting for decades and hundreds of years, so she was relieved. The days with Yang Chen were joyful, and Gao Yu spent almost all days carefree. Yang Chen did almost everything. At this moment, the two were just like normal husbands and wives. Except for fear of affecting their realm in the future, so there was no final integration. Everything that the husband and wife could do has been done. Yang Chen's refining books and classics left by the master from the Greatest Heaven sect in the Icefield were very precious and were good for Gao Yu and Wang Yong. The process of refining the dragon horn flying sword may even be advanced for some time because of these things. There were already 100 kinds of fire seeds in Yang Chen's hands. The 2 major sects before and after the remuneration of the Greatest Heaven sect, there were more than 40 fire seeds of 5th grades and above alone. These high-level fire seeds were still scattered and temporarily not absorbed into the profound spirit furnace. This was exactly the time to complete these. While leisurely controlling the furnace to absorb the fire seeds and while staying lovingly with Gao Yu, this was a very pleasant thing. Quickly 2 years passed by. The 2 5th grade pills were delivered into the hands of the master of the palace, and he would make the final contact with the Greatest Heaven sect. Of course, the master of the palace knew the inside story that the 2 pills were left over from the last Yang Chen refining. The use of the two pills as cure would bring the price of the greatest heaven sect so much, and the two pills could also cause civil disturbances in the greatest heaven sect. Of course, the master of the palace was happy. The palace master brought the elixir to the representative of the greatest heaven sect in a very kind manner. On the surface, he gave a very humble apology and said his disciple was not good at refining and only two were made, which was extremely regrettable. The disciple of the greatest heaven sect who received the elixir were bitter in heart, but he could not speak a single word of complaint. The alchemy division has a low success rate in refining alchemy, which was still for ordinary alchemy, not to mention the 5th grade alchemy. Yang Chen could come up with 2 pills within 2 years, which was already something only a great master of refining could do. How could they blame Yang Chen? The problem was that 3 of them were injured and all of them were masters of the daching stage. Everyone was evenly matched in power and it was a big trouble to whom to give first. No matter which one was left out in the end, it would bring a big storm. Fortunately, the representative of the greatest heaven sect just accepted the elixir on the sect's behalf. It was not his turn to decide which elder to take and which elder to leave out, otherwise, he would be exhausted and anxious to make this decision. The representative does not need to make a decision, but the senior management must make a decision. 3 elders, that was, one must be sacrificed first. In other words, if they wanted Yang Chen to make another refining, they needed to pay a high price again. It was one thing to balance the forces of the 3 daching elders, and there was another thing, because of Li Lihing's spiritual awareness problem, they needed to ask Yang Chen for help anyway. It was more than 10,000 times more important to be able to contact the seniors in the spiritual world than to kill Yang Chen. At this time, who cares about the so-called hatred with Yang Chen from before? The 2 5th grade pills really caused disputes up and down in the greatest heaven sect. 3 daching stage elders, who was willing to fulfill others' wish at this time? Their disciples and their families almost fought. If there were not a few daching stage masters in the sect, maybe the greatest heaven sect would have directly caused an internal disturbance. Their own people were arguing endlessly and were unwilling to be the object of that sacrifice. Everyone knew that without the 5th grade pills, it was impossible to recover from the injuries. Without recovery, there would be no daching stage elder backing them and many people would have a hard time in the future. For this reason, countless people were in contention. This movement couldn't be concealed from others. At least the Qianqin sect, 5 element sect, Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island knew that Yang Chen was refining for the greatest heaven sect, so all were staring at the results. The civil strife in the greatest heaven sect just made the 4 major sects look on lively from a distance. Everyone knows exactly what happened, they were just waiting to see how the greatest heaven sect intends to distribute the 2 elixir to 3 people. At this time, the senior officials of the greatest heaven sect had to appease both internally and externally. Several senior managers took turns to communicate with the 3 injured masters and communicate with their apprentices in an effort to reach an agreement. After all, they were disciples of their own sect. They could never be suppressed by force. They could only allow various conditions to come into play. In the end, everyone pushed and discussed with each other. After more than 3 months of tossing, they made a decision. The 2 most injured elders received the 2 pills and the relatively less injured one, after receiving the senior's unknown guarantee, gave up the fight and waited for the sect to give him a second chance. However, it was almost impossible for the greatest heaven sect to invite Yang Chen in the near future. The 4 major sects would never allow this kind of interruption to happen again. If they wanted Yang Chen's help again, they could only contact Yang Chen in private to see what conditions could move Yang Chen. The second refining of the 5th grade pills was successful and no one had any doubts about Yang Chen. The Blue Cloud sect and the Green Jade Immortal Island were okay, they already had a batch of questioning inner heart pills, but Qianqin sect and the 5 element sect began to have headaches. For the first time, they were going to ask Yang Chen to refine pills for them, so they didn't know which pills to request at first. Although the time was not long, the internal disputes in the greatest heaven sect have fallen into the eyes of many people and everyone's views on the greatest heaven sect have also changed slightly. In this case, the greatest heaven sect had to bite the bullet and send someone to visit Yang Chen again. This time, it was not a random elder from the greatest heaven sect, but Mao Kai, the head of the Foreign Affairs Hall. His character was completely different from the arrogance that he accompanied Elder Ming Guangruo with the last time. Mao Kai behaved abnormally easygoing. Not only to Yang Chen alone, but to everyone in the Puryang Palace, he had a smile that made people feel like seeing a spring breeze. He didn't know what kind of benefits Mao Kai promised to the master of the palace, but the master of the palace came to Yang Chen with a satisfied smile. Yang Chen had discussed this with the palace master early. When the greatest heaven sect asked for a visit, he could get any benefit he wanted from them. Now it was clear that he got what he wanted. How could the palace master be unhappy? In the past his sect still needed to look up to the greatest heaven sect, now they whispered and begged to come to their sect, they also put on a submissive posture, and it naturally gave people a sense of satisfaction. Especially when this guy who came to the sect was their own enemy, it made people feel the greatest satisfaction. Was there anything more spiritually pleasing than their enemy who was sent to them to come to them with a smiley face and shake their hands? All Master Mao came from a long distance, with enough sincerity, Yang Chen, you have to listen to his request. Hallmaster Mao Kai was handed over to Yang Chen to receive, and the master of the palace with a contented smile on his face, shaking in 3 steps expressing his inner joy, he left here. This disciple will have that in mind, I will see you off palace master. Yang Chen replied, not caring about the face of Hallmaster Mao Kai, his face full of the expression of squinting his prey into a trap. Mao Kai watched Yang Chen's expression like he was about to make a fortune with open eyes, without any unpleasantness on his face. With a smile on his face, Hallmaster Mao Kai's heart alternated between sadness and joy. The performance of the pure Yang Palace sect master, coupled with the performance of Yang Chen, was facing the appetite of the greatest heaven sect. After all, it was still a small sect and a small family with little knowledge. Even if they have become allies with a big sect, they were still a second-rate sect. Even if they have a 5th-grade alchemist master, they have never seen anything that good. All kinds of property could be used to draw them together. If they knew this already, why did their people have to die? The greatest heaven sect moved a lot of experts, 6 Yuaning stage masters have died, and they paid countless prices, but it was better to use this method. Sadly, the true injustice of those people's deaths, fortunately, the pure Yang Palace has already accepted those huge benefits, this time asking Yang Chen to help, maybe it could be solved easily. All Master Mao, to what do I owe this honorable visit? Yang Chen sent the master of the palace away, and he politely faced him, asking with a smile. Grandmaster Yang, it is no secret that I have offended you a lot in the past, please forgive me Grandmaster Yang. Mao Kai deserves to be the master of the greatest heaven sect's foreign affairs, he had good communication with others, knowing that Yang Chen may not be happy about him in his heart, he was able to open his mouth and apologize. Yang Chen raised his eyebrows, watching Mao Kai silently, waiting for him to continue. Mao Kai said this, apparently intending to change his strategy. In the future, if the master has any requirements, please advise me at any time. As long as I can do it, I will never disagree. Mao Kai stated again, I am willing to be a friend with the master and hope that the master will give me this face. Grandmaster this time refined 2 5th-grade Lingzi mushroom jade pills, and the greatest heaven sect is grateful. Mao Kai rushed to Yang Chen and said, but Grandmaster also knows that 3 elders in my sect were injured, so the 2 elixir was not enough. Could Grandmaster Yang work hard and make another one? The greatest heaven sect will not disappoint the Grandmaster. Good way of putting it. Yang Chen asked politely, what's the benefit? What does the Grandmaster want? Mao Kai also seemed to understand that Yang Chen didn't intend to beat around the bush, which was also a good thing for him. Everyone talked about the deal nakedly, so there was no need to mix any other emotional investment. Otherwise, it's really hard to say what Yang Chen did before to the greatest heaven sect. I have enough fire seeds for the time being. Yang Chen stared at Mao Kai and said slowly. The greatest heaven sect has something else besides the fire seeds. Mao Kai quickly said, Grandmaster, please speak what you want. I have no good cultivation method for my senior apprentice sister, who has the earth attribute spiritual root. I don't know what the ultimate earth cultivation method of the greatest heaven sect is. And if it will be to my senior apprentice sister's liking. Everyone talked nakedly, so would he care about anything, and he directly asked. After opening his mouth to ask about a top-level cultivation method, Mao Kai was silent for time. There were some cultivation methods in the greatest heaven sect, but if they wanted to satisfy Yang Chen, it was impossible to believe in ordinary cultivation methods, even high-level cultivation methods. It seemed that there was only one kind of cultivation method that could satisfy Yang Chen's extreme cultivation method, but also of the earth attribute. As an elder, he was still the master of foreign affairs. The only cultivation method that could satisfy Yang Chen's conditions was the 6th Earth True Secret ART. However, it was prepared for the high level of the greatest heaven sect. Even the 6th Earth True Essence of the 6th Earth True Secret ART was collected by the greatest heaven sect. The quantity was small and only 2 people could cultivate it. Was it really going to be given to Yang Chen? Looking at Mao Kai being hesitant, Yang Chen began to smile. The last kind of cultivation method for the great yin and yang 5-element secret art was stored in the greatest heaven sect in the memory of Yang Chen's previous life. Originally, he couldn't think of how to get the cultivation method before destroying the greatest heaven sect. Now the greatest heaven sect would have to bring it to him. Mao Kai's hesitation did not last for a long time. A daching stage master and the copy of a 6th Earth True Secret Art plus the 6th Earth True Essence could hardly be compared. Even if Yang Chen got this cultivation method, then it means that the Pure Yang Palace would know about it, but there wasn't a way to collect the 6th Earth True Essence, and the cultivation method would become just a roll of waste paper. Immediately, Mao Kai decided and nodded no problem. In order to show our sincerity, we will also send Grandmaster some 6th Earth True Essence. Okay, have the medicinal materials ready. Within 3 years, I will make another refining. Yang Chen also felt refreshed and agreed immediately. With the words on his mouth, the flowers bloomed in his heart. The yin and yang 5-element secret art, except for the 3rd fire true secret art, finally came together and Yang Chen could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Grandmaster, the alchemy is not needed in a hurry, there is another thing I would like to ask for next. After listening to Yang Chen's promise, Mao Kai also took a breath as finally one thing was resolved. But this was only one of the requirements, there was something about Li Lihing that needed Yang Chen's help. Last time, Grandmaster found that my young sect master's spiritual awareness was in trouble. I wonder if there is a way to solve it. Mao Kai asked carefully, this was the most important purpose of this trip. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.